today. So every day we start fresh because we can't affect the past, but we damn sure can make a difference today.
Welcome to episode 55 of Shop Talk. We have a very special episode in store because we're joined by the rookie rewatch team. Emily, Chelsea, and Martha are all here to talk about all things Sergeant Bradford with us. Welcome back, guys.
Hey, thanks.
Hello, thanks for having us back.
So over the course of the last few days, we've watched quite a few episodes featuring Tim's journey to Sergeant. And we'll be talking about Manhunt, The Night General, Follow-Up Day, Casualties, 5 Minutes, and In the Line of Fire. First of all, we do have some news to cover. So, Carrie, do you want to start us off?
Oh, sure. It's the news we've all been like waiting for, praying for. Everyone's so excited about. Because True Valentino has been up to a series regular for season 5. So,
yay!
And Thorson is sticking around, and seems like he'll have like more of a presence in the LAPD. So
Those are the perfect words. More presence. Yay. I was like celebrating for like 2 days straight when we heard the announcement, and then the next day when they put the video out, it was just like I can't do it because I was just like screaming so loud. I can't do it because it'll be too loud. But it was
the news
verified on Instagram now too, which is fun. So.
Yeah, because I don't think he was verified before.
I don't think so.
Oh,
at least not to my knowledge.
Oh, he had got a check mark?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah. I kind of wish he'd be like on Twitter too.
Yeah. He is on Twitter.
I think he is
active. Just not active.
Yeah.
Like that's where all the craziness is. I'm gonna stay on Instagram.
I wonder. Well, I mean, granted, there's probably other factors that have led us to not get many behind the scenes from the rookie cast. So we've gotten them from the rookie feds. More so just like the antics, but I wonder if that's why we haven't gotten many videos, is because they wanted to keep that news in. But even then, like, I don't really remember any news about like him joining as a recurring. Like, I mean, he was just there, like he just appeared.
Yeah, I can't remember if there was official like news. I just remember seeing the back of his head in that one promotional photo.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
I feel like they're cooking up some good stuff because we aren't getting. I mean, it's not like we got a whole lot before, but like we got more than what we have been this year. Yeah. And I don't know.
Well, I also think it's just they need to, hype up the season 5 premiere. And
right. Well, that and like probably COVID protocols too. They can't like screw around much or whatever. But yeah, didn't the news drop like the same day as the Comic-Con or something? Because I remember it just felt like it was kind of like not thrown in, but like just kind of hidden in the middle. And I was like, oh, yeah, this did happen. So, but speaking of the Comic-Con, we do have some highlights from that, and I pulled information from 3 different articles, and I mean there was stuff floating around on Twitter too. So if I missed something, like feel free to jump in because there was a lot going on and it was like a Thursday or something. So but yeah, from the TV Insider article, it did share that season 5 will see John Nolan as a TO with a brand new female rookie, and he's basically starting at the bottom again but rising through the ranks as a TO. And Nathan had said in the article, quote unquote, it's brilliant the way we take a look at life and say, what keeps you a rookie? What in your life are you still a rookie at? So that's interesting. And I'll be interested to see how he is as a TO, because like watching 402, Lucy like was, he had asked her if like he could practice being a TO, and she was like, really? And it was kind of weird to like hear him call someone boot and everything. And I was like, I don't know, like, does John Nolan like have what it takes to like be like tough and show some tough love or something? But it'll be interesting. So
yeah, I think maybe they'll probably, it's just guessing, not a screenwriter or anything, but they may like have like different takes of him like trying out different things. Like maybe he'll try like Nyla's approach, and then maybe we'll like have like a reference to Talia, and then Tim and stuff, and then be like at the end it's like he finally makes something. It's like, okay, this is where my line is and how I run. So
I wonder
like the pilot like montage kind of thing, but Nolan.
And like even we'll kind of talk about it later, but in one of the episodes in season 4, Tim even tells Gray, like, I have to figure out how I'm gonna do it myself, like, because I'm a different sergeant than you. I wonder Nolan will have that realization too, like he has to. I don't know. Yeah. So Alexei also addressed the Chenford elephant in the room and said there will be some repercussions and fallout from the season 4 cliffhanger. And then he also said to expect a fun Nyla pregnancy storyline and Wesley, quote unquote, crossing over from the defense side and into policing in a more solid way. Okay, I don't want fallout and repercussions for Chenford. Like, I'll just say it now for everyone in the fandom. Like, no, we don't need it.
The angst that we're gonna get. I can only imagine, bruh.
I'm fine with some angst, but like, don't let him pine over her for another season, like a full season. If you want to do it for a few episodes or like until the mid-season finale, fine. And
I'm down for it though, because he needs to catch up like with his feelings.
Yeah,
so I'm down for a whole.
But I don't need it for like a full season. And he's like, "Oh, I can't work around Lucy or anything." Like, I don't need that. I need some more like progress there.
I would imagine there's probably going to be progress. I don't mind the angst and the pining, but like people are talking about like jealousy because Chris is around, and like I like a little bit of that, but I don't need it for very long. Like we can do that in a minute, and then let's move on to something else. Like we can have some more obstacles that don't involve love triangles. I don't like love triangles. But I don't know. I kind of like the slope. Like I want to get it to there. I want them to see. I want to see them in a relationship, but I like the slow burn. I kind of like to see the like difficult road to there. I don't know. That's me.
Yeah. No, I like to see them like dancing around each other, but I'm just like, as far as like a fallout, like what do you mean? Like he just can't work with her, or like they're just very awkward around each other. Like I don't need a lot of it. I just want a little bit. And as far as a fun Nyla pregnancy storyline, I don't know why, but I thought she was like further along. So I figured it's season 5, like we'll just come back and like she'll have had the baby like it was with Angela, but I don't know. I mean, I guess like she could still be pregnant and just like a few weeks away from her due date or something, but yeah.
The rookie timeline never makes sense. Honestly, when I read that, I was like, I thought she was like what Jennifer said, like I thought she was farther along. Like the end of season 4 was like she's gonna give birth during like the hiatus.
I mean, maybe she is, and they just can't say it because they don't want to, like
spoil it. Yeah. And then Wesley crossing over and policing in a more solid way. Like, I mean, there was a behind the scenes, and it did show Kanoa and Sean working together, or at least them pictured together. I mean, I'm cool with him being in the DA's office, so
yeah.
And then Alexei also said the rookie and the rookie feds do live in the same universe, and he wants people to feel like you can quote unquote you can bounce between them. They stand on their own, but they're super fun to watch together. So it'll definitely be fun. It's still weird to me that they're going to be on separate nights, but like also
I know that doesn't. Yeah, it's like especially if you're going to do a crossover, it's like you want it to like seamlessly do it, not like.
Well, and it's not like it's Monday, Tuesday, or Sunday, Monday that the shows are on. Like there's a full day in between. So yeah, it'll be interesting.
I remember seeing the word lousy. I don't know if you put it in here.
Yeah,
but like
I did.
Like I didn't understand that at first. Like, what is the ABC? Like, what do they mean? ABC is gonna. I hope that the ABC is lousy with crossovers. It's like, what does that mean? Maybe like, and I started to think about it. Maybe it's just like we would just sort of become comfortable with seeing it all the time. Like it's just like
it's natural. Yeah,
it's natural. Like for instance, we've already seen that Tim and Lucy are going to be on an episode of the Fed. Nathan's already done an episode. Like, it could be just like we're watching Feds and be like, oh yeah, there's Lucy. Oh yeah, there's Wesley. Like they just show up. And by the way, like I watched like a movie that had Kevin and John in it. And I'm like, those, like, we need to have those two in a scene, like Wesley and
Brendan is his name. Yeah.
Like, maybe they could meet. That would be fun.
I completely agree with that, because the eyes and the looks, I would be here for that.
They're so cute.
Yes. Oh my God. And I just remember Kevin Zegers from the Air Bud movies. And I'm just like, he was the most precious kid ever. And I think I had like the biggest crush on him then.
I just like, this is I know I'm just already excited about the Feds, because like we already know some of the characters, and then we're meeting like new ones, and I'm just like already like getting into like what Kevin Zegers like been in. Like I'm starting to the other day I was like, oh gosh, she's been in like all these movies that I've loved like as a kid. Like he played like a little kid in like Life with Mikey, and I was like, I used to watch that movie like all the time.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, he played like a young Michael J. Fox, which I love Michael J. Fox. So like, but I just got so excited. I was like, yes, he's been around forever.
Yeah.
That's like me with Britt Robertson. I'm excited to see her in the Feds.
She hasn't been in a lot of the behind the scenes, at least that I've seen. Like Niecy Nash has like had Kevin in quite a few of them. I don't know, maybe it's just like
she's been in like group shots. She's just she's just so tiny
and like maybe more shy or something. I don't know, but no, I saw that too in articles, Emily. And when he said lousy, I was like, what do you mean by that though? Like, do you hope that do you mean that they like, you don't want them to do them, like ABC to do the crossovers, or do you want it to be just like more of a natural feel? Like, what do you mean? Because lousy is kind of a odd word for that.
Yeah, to me it makes more sense like the latter, like it just be really natural.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because I mean we have seen quite a few of the characters crossover already, and it's like, is that like a full blown crossover, or is that just going to be like a little like cameo or whatever? And it'll be interesting because I know like for other shows, I mean like 911 Lone Star, like they literally had the 911 people from LA go to Texas or vice versa. And I mean, that's a lot of scheduling. So, and I remember, I know for like our Chicago shows, like they've said, we just have to like make sure that the character in PD or in Med isn't doing something, or like they're kidnapped or whatever. And then like they're showing up on another show and it's like, wait, that's not jiving. So maybe like that's what he means by lousy. I don't know. It's just, I'm interested to see how these seasons play out. So, and then Niecy Nash had added that everyone's eager to meet Simone Clark, who's going to do it in her own way. She doesn't take no for an answer. She's a lover and a flirt. And she added that the Feds is a perfect marriage of comedy and drama. I definitely feel like it will be the perfect marriage of comedy and drama, because I feel like she is very comedic. So, yeah. And then I thought that this was interesting. Terrence Winter had said the rookie Feds will take place all over LA, but also all over the nation, possibly overseas, since it centers on a federal agency. We have a jet plane and will often fly, and it opens up in the show in a really exciting way. He also said there's an interesting romance coming up for Simone. So as far as like it opens up in a really exciting way, like the cold opens, I guess. I don't know. That's what I'm assuming. It's like the cold open could be in like
for the very first time, or like all of them.
I don't for like all of them or something, I guess. I don't know. Like I'm curious to see where they fly to and like how they rope that into the storyline.
I wonder if they're actually going to fly to places. Like they said that jet plane. I'm like, okay, like you're gonna use it.
I know. I'm like so intrigued by these interviews because I'm like, okay, you're teasing us, but also like how much of this is gonna happen? Like I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Who knows? I wonder who like the romance interest is going to be for Simone, because like in like Simone for like the rookie of 419, she said that she was bi, correct? She was canonically bi. Like it would be
she
interesting.
hinted at it, yeah.
I think it would be interesting to see her love interest be a woman or non-binary individual. Just because like I mean nowadays in shows you do see a lot more LGBTQIA plus couples, but it's like being a Black woman in like, you know, authoritative position. It would be interesting to see that.
I would be interested to see it be another person of color with her too. Like with Jackson, we had Gino, but then Sterling too. And it was like, okay, that's fine. But like it would be interesting to see not only her being a female, but also like her dating a person of color as well. Yeah. Emily, do you want to take us through the deadline article?
Oh, sure. So it said that there are currently 3 episodes into filming for both shows. Alexi said, this latest year feels like a real transitional one with a lot of movement. The show will continue to tell harder stories with familiar villains returning. A lot of that, I've heard a lot of different theories about who it is. Terrence shared that we'll meet more of Simone's family, including her twins. They'll dig into her love life too, like we talked about. Yeah, I'm excited to see who, like the twins and Cuddy. Like we haven't seen any of Frankie Faison and like behind the scenes. Like I'm excited to.
Yeah, we haven't.
Or see more of him. I love Cuddy. Oh yeah, so the villains. Other than Rosalind, who do you think it's gonna be?
I feel like Oscar kind of just has to make a comeback because like the dude's been like every season. So I feel like it's just like natural for him to come back. I mean, as far as the other villains, I don't know. I think Rosalind's the only one.
Yeah. I think she's the only one that's still alive.
Yeah.
True.
That's and I think he did specifically say from season 2, like I remember him saying like we're gonna revisit some storylines from season 2. I don't remember if he said in the same sentence talking about villains, but could be.
Yeah, I didn't watch the actual panel like video. I just saw a lot of people's tweets. So it's kind of like I don't know how much I can infer from this, but
it was in different pieces. I like it's really interesting how they say it's going to be like a real transitional year with a lot of movement. Like obviously we're going to see Nathan or we're going to see Nolan become a TO. So make some promotion there. Like I'd be interested to know if like Lucy gets a promotion or like what. And since we're talking about like Sergeant Bradford, I mean, I don't know like career wise what's really next for him, but like obviously
Captain.
Yeah. Or watch like more watch commander. But
well, and like remember Nyla in season 4 in the finale said she wanted to be detective after she got back. So I guess that'll be transitional.
Yeah. And like maybe not be like career wise, maybe it's just a lot of movement personally too. And then like I'm wondering if there's like any time jumps. I don't really want any time jumps.
Yeah. I wonder who's going to be Aaron's TO.
Yes.
Because Nolan's going to have his own rookie. Does that mean that Lucy's like taking a career change and she's going to be TO? But I feel like they wouldn't put a brand new TO with a brand new rookie. But I mean, they are with John, so maybe.
Yeah. And then also it says the spinoff will tell real stories about systemic issues in an organic way, much like the rookie does. So that's That's good. I kind of expected that.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how this plays out, just because like Simone is a Black woman, and Black women as well as Indigenous women are basically at the bottom of like hierarchy type thing. So I'm wondering how they're gonna film and tell those stories.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch it play out. So Martha, do you want to take the Entertainment Weekly article?
Sure. So from Entertainment Weekly, Nathan said Nolan's new rookie won't be a copy of him, but their journey will have familiar themes from the show, and she's very much her own character, though. I've saw theories that the cop from the finale might come back, or like people were like theorizing it might be her, or like wondering who it is. So
I saw that too.
It'll be interesting.
I kind of liked her, but
yeah,
I'm curious who it is. Even if it's just somebody new, it would be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I mean, I feel like they have to bring on some new characters, so it's the new rookie is going to be one of the characters, but then I don't know. I just have this feeling that they're bringing in someone to be Aaron's TO, and they'll just explain it as like they've been there for a while. I mean, because I just, as much as I want it to be Smitty, I just don't see it being him.
Yeah. I was gonna say,
like, I just don't. Aaron will be like, I went from Nyla to Smitty. Like, what's all this about?
Yeah.
That'd be probably a disaster. That'd be funny.
I mean, I would like to see it for a day or for an episode, but I don't think I could see it for the rest of the season, like Smitty and Aaron. But it would be comical.
I just feel like it would be, even though I know like the new female rookie will be like very much her own character, I just feel like it would be kind of funny to like have Nolan interact with someone that like talks as much as he does, or like just a little bit of how he like, you know, like in the new, you know, the newness of it all, you know, like gets super excited, super like go like, you know, like she might want to do everything like, you know, without fully thinking it through, kind of like he was at first, just so he can kind of see how, you know, that is like dealing with someone like that. I just feel like that would be kind of funny.
Sending to Alexi now.
Yeah.
Alrighty. After Alexi mentioned possible repercussions for Chenford, which we have all voiced that we do not like, do not want, Nathan added, you have one character who's very in tuned, which is Lucy, and then Tim, you have this guy who's very walled off, closed off, and so tuned out. I tease Eric about this all the time. All he has to do is a tiny smile, and everyone goes, "Oh my God, swoon." There's no lie in that sentence.
Yeah. Literally no lie. No lie whatsoever.
You basically do that 4/7.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so like I think it was you guys that like tweeted back out the photos from when we saw his stripes last year, like around this time. And in the like one photo, there's like one of him like on top, like smiling or whatever, and then the bottom one, like his tongue is out. I just keep looking at those photos and I'm like, oh my God, I was so bad for Tim Bradford.
But I had to put that one in, like, because that's so Eric, like he does that kind of regularly. Yeah.
But I also love that Nathan was like, all he has to do is smile and like everyone's like swoon. It was like literally there's no lie to that. And I'm glad that you realized that. So
that reminded me of the HomeCon when they did that one, because I watched that like ridiculously often. Yeah. They're doing sort of the same thing. It's like they were talking about like Tim Bradford being like, who would you be, like, and Grace, like Grace, and Nathan was doing the same thing, like, aw, like all aw.
Alrighty, writers have been shipping to it's Chenford. Not to see.
But that's what they called him back then.
Yeah.
Hey,
It was
anyways,
tragic.
since season 1, yes, they called him Tusi back then, but it's now Chenford. Hashtag Chenford.
They were calling him Juicy back then when the show was like had probably what 20 fans or something. I don't know, but it wasn't as big as it is now.
It's so funny, Tusi. Oh, who do you get? Tusi? Who? Alexi mentioned the premiere could feature another kiss, but it's not for sure going to be Chenford. Could be Bailey
Yeah.
Nolan, who Nathan said will remain stable, which I call BS because this man wanted to propose to her, and then he got freaked out when I think Lucy mentioned like, "Oh, are you like she's moved in with you? You're living together," and he freaked out. It's like
that kiss better be Chenford.
It has to be.
It better be.
You're gonna drop that, and like
we're gonna manifest it, Emily.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
But he dropped that in the same sentence about talking about Chenford, and it was just like, no, like don't drop that and then leave it. Like you're gonna follow through with that.
It's got to be Chenford because like even Eric and like hasn't he done a few new cameos? Like he said that they started off season 5 with a bang. Like it has to be Chenford. I mean, we know that they're gonna pick up on the undercover storyline. It's got to be Chenford because if it was Balin, it wouldn't be a big thing because we've seen them kiss before. We've seen them do multiple things. Like it wouldn't be as huge of a thing, and it wouldn't be mentioned in an interview like this if it was Balin. I think so. It's got to be Chenford.
My thing is, part of me is like, do we really need another Chenford kiss that close to the last? Because
yes,
I'm still not over the first one. I'm probably really gonna. It's gonna kill me.
I need it.
The way that I can see it happening though is like maybe Tim like goes to her and he's like, what was that? And like, what, I don't know what to do from it. And then, they end up kissing again or whatever. And then that's when the fallout starts and the repercussions, like after 2 kisses.
I feel like that would be when the repercussions start, is after the second, because then they're really like it's really gonna hit them. I mean, the first, I think they both kind of realized it, but if they kiss again, it's gonna be like it'll be a big deal.
Yeah, unless like the fallout and repercussions is like between the kisses, and then one of them's like, oh screw it, like we know that this is like what's meant to be or whatever, and then the repercussions and stuff go away. I don't know, I'm trying to be very helpful about this. So
I've seen a theory that maybe the repercussions are the breakups. Maybe that's like what they mean by repercussions, is them breaking up with like Ashley and Chris.
Yeah, we haven't seen Helena back.
Undercover.
Yeah.
Mostly because I just want to see Melissa like dressed up as Juicy for more than like
same
seconds. So
like we've seen them kiss as like normal Tim and Lucy, and I kind of want to see them kiss now as like Dim and Juicy. Like I don't know, I want to see that. I mean, I'll know that it's still Tim and Lucy, obviously, but
I can only imagine because I've been reading so many like stories like on AO3, bruh. Because like I mean, we saw how Jake acted and we saw how Juicy acted, and it's kind of, they're more flamboyant, I guess, more bold. So it's like they
more
have
expressive.
They have to step it up for this kiss. I am ready for it.
I can see them kissing, and then someone says something like Juicy is like, damn, like that was a good one or whatever, and then it's like, wait, are you talking as Juicy or Lucy right now? Like, I don't know. I see it happening. It's the vision. I've got the vision. I'm keeping it. I'm riding that train until September 25th. Yeah. So we'll finally move on to the episode. There was a lot of news, and so like we said, tonight we're talking about our favorite Sergeant Bradford moments, and then all of the episodes that we've rewatched over the past few days. So we'll kind of start off with favorite Sergeant Bradford moments. Emily, do you want to start off?
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say like all of them, but we don't have all day, and and you know, I'll kind of keep them brief and maybe like talk about them when we talk about the episodes. But like the speech in 115 when the units like arrived, that was perfect. And then like there's this little thing earlier, like I don't know, I find it kind of like I know y'all did like underrated like Chenford, like this is like underrated like Bradford like moments. Is like or Sergeant, like when he was talking to Gray on the radio, and he was like, Gray was telling him that he like didn't have enough units or whatever, but he was like, it was basically Bradford that was making that decision and telling Gray like what's best in the circumstances. Like that's Bradford. Like he's just smart and like very quick about like really flexible about solving problems. And that's, I mean, that's a TO move, but it's also like really good for like really good still for Sergeant also. And then I mean, this is kind of Chenford, but see the audiobook. I know I'm probably not the only one to talk about the audiobook, so I won't go too much into it. But like, but the thing that I was like thinking about with that, like when I was planning for the rewatch, 208 is kind of in that sort of same chapter with 202, of like him kind of have these coming up against these kind of roadblocks, these struggles. But like with Chenford, like that's like her, like Lucy, like helping him through that stuff. But I think it's an important thread to notice, which is not hard to notice, is that Lucy kind of has been pivotal. Would that be the right word? In his, I was having really trouble saying it earlier. And I question whether she had been any influence in his decision to become sergeant. And we can like, I mean, we can talk about it later, but like, you never see them talking about it. But I think it's really beautiful to see that she helped him along the way. And like, we got to see her start, like his next chapter. Like we got to see him pick her as the aide, and so she's kind of like starting the next chapter with him. Like she's kind of been with him the whole time, but like that's a perfect sort of bookend to that.
Yeah.
And then like last time I'm going to mention ones that were not in our rewatch. So I picked this theme and these episodes. If we had to do if we had another day to do it, I would have added like 406 and 415. I know Martha's going to talk a little bit about the 406 moment too. But like, yeah, that moment on the platform, like giving a speech to Jerry. I just get like hard eyes, butterflies, just seeing him up there. Like, I love seeing him up there doing that. I was thinking about that. Like I don't know that was like a specific sergeant task, like part of his sergeant training. But like, I would imagine like, any supervisor, it's responsibility to let people go. So that was kind of like, that kind of whole episode was sort of also kind of like within his sort of sergeant's training.
Yeah. Well, and like he rode with McGrady too that day, didn't he? So it was probably like he felt like it should come from him more so than like Gray or anyone else.
Yeah. And then when on 415, his stint as watch commander, sitting at the desk, and that whole episode, like just his relationship with Gray, and but him sitting at the desk in like the watch commander office. I remember asking Eric, I don't think it was my question. I took it from somebody else on Twitter or whatever, but like or I'd seen that people were wondering like will he get like an office for like maybe like Chenford reasons? But I remember asking him and him saying that like probably not, but like but he'd want like he would like for Bradford to get an office someday. Anyway, I watched it and I'm thinking, well, that's kind of like, it was kind of like a compromise. Like he didn't get an office, but we get to see him
right.
See him in the chair leading everybody while Gray is out.
Yeah. Chelsea, what were your favorite Sergeant Bradford moments?
So I think my favorite for Tim as like a sergeant is kind of what Emily said, like seeing him as watch commander when Gray was out for court and everything. I feel like that almost, in a sense, I described it earlier as I think it brought the whole Sergeant Bradford idea and like story full circle almost, with seeing him take over as watch commander for that episode. Because of course from the beginning of the show we've seen him in the training officer role, but seeing him in the role of watch commander and over way more than just like Lucy, because like now he's in charge of like the entire deal. But I think that just kind of brought it full circle, and it really makes me happy to see Tim in that role, because it's just really cool to see how he takes on that role and challenge.
Yeah, for sure. Martha, what about your favorite Sergeant Bradford moments? I know you have a lot on the outline.
Oh, obviously I'm in love with Timothy Bradford. This is nothing new. Like I don't know. So for as like Tim being sergeant, like he's like newly sergeant and everything, like Emily mentioned, I very much like seeing Tim do the end of watch for Jerry. And one reason in particular is because obviously Tim has been like the headstrong, like really tough person, not showing very much emotion. In that scene, to me at least, I did see like vulnerability, like in doing the end of watch for Jerry, and it kind of let the rest of the station see that. Like you could see Tim like breaking down his walls a little bit. So yeah, there's that one. And like in Tim overall, not counting Chenford moments, because all of them are my favorite. I liked his scene. So I have two. I liked his final scene with his dad, and then like scenes with Angela. So with his dad, what did I say? I appreciate this scene because Tim is like in American society is what American society sees as like a man, very much like headstrong, dominant, a go-getter, doesn't show any emotion, which is like a big thing because like obviously in the final scene with his dad, he's being upfront about like, hey, you hurt me as a kid, and like he was cutting off all communication with his dad in that moment too, which is like a divergence from like the ideal of like you have to respect your elders, that's your family, they're always going to be your family, and it's like no, family does not end or begin in blood. So it was good to see that for that. And then Angela, I just love Tim and Angela's relationship, like their friendship. It just makes me so happy just seeing them together. I want to see Tim with Jack and Angela just on a day together, best things. So yeah.
Carrie, what were your favorite Bradford moments, or Sergeant Bradford?
Yeah, I know. Like I had put like two that weren't really like when he was like sergeant, but obviously 202. I'll talk about that moment until I'm blue in the face. I love that one so much. And then 213, their end scene is always good. But like the best like sergeant moment for me is just like Tim finally just like being like, okay, like Lucy gets the chance to be like his aide now.
Yeah.
And just because it you know, like they go back and forth, like trying to, you know, one up each other the whole episode, and then it's just like, okay, finally, like, because obviously everyone knows it, that, you know, they should still be working together, but it just took them a while to figure it out. So
yeah, I know everyone else is like, what are you guys doing? Like, you guys are being stupid here. Just work together. I would say, so for my favorite Sergeant Bradford moments, I would say the entire, like, I love 403, like from start to end with him. But even like 402, like just those two episodes, because he's really finding his footing as being a sergeant. But 403, I would say, is probably my most favorite, like out of those two. Just because, like, the banter with Lucy, he was really just trying to, like, he wasn't coming across as like very like tough or like I'm your boss now. Like, he was very much like, yes, I do rank above Nyla and John and, you know, all of them, like he did before too with the P2s, but he wasn't like, oh, like we can't be friends anymore, or like I'm your boss and I'm not gonna like let you, like, you know, I don't know. He was very much like the people's boss, kind of. Like, I think of it as when your coworker like gets promoted and like they were, you know, your same like level or whatever, and they get promoted and it's like, oh yeah, like now we have a person on the inside that like we trust, we can get along with and everything like that. Like, you don't see them as the boss, but they are. So yeah, I would say 403 was my favorite Sergeant Bradford moment. And then, like, I also liked in 214 when he was talking to Mitch at the end of the episode. Like, he, you know, was just wanting to watch out for him and like wanting to make sure that everything was good with him. And as he like walked away, like you could tell that he got like a little emotional because he kind of like wiped his eye, and, you know, like Kojo had looked up at him and he was like, not a word. So I don't know. I like Sergeant Tim Bradford, and I love that like he doesn't try and be like the boss man. He doesn't try and be like, you know, the stickler or anything. He's very much like kind of relaxed in a way. I don't know, because Gray's like that too. So it'll be interesting to see if he's like that in season 5. So yeah, that was a really long-winded answer, but um so we'll kind of start off with the first episode from the Sergeant Bradford rewatch, which was 115, titled Manhunt. Chelsea, do you want to take it away?
Yeah. Okay. So, of course, that episode, like, they start off talking to Jessica about, like, if somebody has a bomb or something, you know, and stuff, how would you try to stop that person from setting it off and stuff? And Jessica goes over like how most of them, all of them failed except for Nolan, and she starts talking about how Tim says words are like just skipped words all around, and then he says words are overrated. And I'm assuming he would just jump to try to stop the person. But I said, I think that is definitely Tim. I feel like I couldn't be. He would be that type of person. Words would be overrated in that situation.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they get the like notification about like the escaped prisoners from the van, and they have to try to go find them. And he contacts an old friend to find one of the escaped prisoners, Deacon, which is his friend's name. And they're trying to find Marcus Gibson, who's the prisoner. Deacon then starts talking about like how Tim hasn't changed much since they first met, and he even goes as far as saying to Lucy, I remember when your TO is the one wearing long sleeves, and Lucy asks if he has pictures. Lucy always wants the pictures of him.
Always.
Any picture. And then later, of course, speaking about like what Deacon said, Tim decides to ask Angela if he's changed much since she's met him, because he tells her he feels like he's not challenging himself enough. And I think it was nice to see Tim kind of have second thoughts about that, and him kind of debate whether he challenges himself enough. And Angela asked him, like, since when does Tim Bradford do introspection? And then they share the inside joke because she hollers at him and tells him he's gotten dumber. I love their friendship.
But Bradford, like, to me, like, when I look at Bradford, I think like he does introspection. Like, maybe he didn't used to, but like I feel like kind of like, as long as we know, or as long as like maybe up until like 103, like after that, it's like he's always kind of like either like, I don't know, listening to Lucy, or like listening to what she says and like taking it and thinking about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I see that with Lucy. I'm sure he does it with everybody else, but I'm just like, well, since Lucy, he's gonna become like.
I definitely agree with you on that, and I think that's a lot of why we can see how Chinford is so perfect, because I honestly think that him being Lucy's training officer has like helped him do that. I think that almost is what helped him get to the point where he does introspection more. From what we've heard, I think Lucy's a lot of that reason.
Yeah, definitely.
And then of course Tim gets the message from Deacon to find Marcus Gibson at his house. Tim and Lucy then roll into the neighborhood and run into a member of the 5-4 gang named Keon, who is waiting for Marcus. Tim radios Gray to tell him about the 15 gang members outside of Deacon's house, and Gray informs him that all of the units are with Nolan and that they'll try to get some to back them up over there as soon as they can. He then, of course, tells Gray to have the units stay away from their location until overwhelming force arrives. Anything less is going to come with a body count, he says. And I feel like that was a perfect moment, because like that moment, I feel like is one that it kind of gives us a hint of Sergeant Bradford in a way. He's really taking control in that moment.
Yeah.
And it was cool to see.
Yeah, that's the moment that I was talking about earlier. It's like that's a Sergeant Bradford moment.
Yeah. Tim and Lucy then go into Deacon's house and cuff the prisoner. And then, of course, later we see Lucy asking him, like, if there's a scenario where they just give the gang members what they want, which is Marcus. And I love how Tim replies to her on that, because I said it really shows who he is. Like, we all know Tim's that person that, he would literally, he doesn't care who the person is. He's going to do the job the right way.
Yeah.
And his reply to her is, because she looks at him and his reply to her is, that call isn't ours to make. We're here to serve and protect. We don't get to decide who we serve or who we protect. And of course, then she replies with, you're willing to die for that guy? And his response was, I am unwilling to let fear make me do something I'll be ashamed of in the light of day. And that is to this day one of my favorite quotes from Tim. I love that quote.
Yes, same. Like, I think it shows that he's willing to put aside everything that he's worked so hard for and like focused on and everything for like other people. He's willing to put his own safety aside and just like make sure that everyone around him, whether it's the victim, whether it's his like partner, anyone is safe, even if that means like injuring himself or anything like that.
I agree. And two, I hadn't really thought about it, but I feel like that was one of the moments that, of course, we've seen all those little moments up until then where Lucy kind of was surprised at what he would say and stuff. And like, I feel like that was one of those moments when she heard him say that. I think that was one of the moments where she really, her respect for him, I feel like grew 10 times more.
Yes.
At that point. Like, she gained a lot of respect for him when he said that, I think. Like, and she's seen it more clearly. And then Tim goes outside to help Deacon and starts talking to Keon about how he'd been doing. Of course, we get back into how he thinks he's been doing the job too long and everybody around him is moving up. And he says, one thing I've learned all these years is that I'm never alone and I'm never outnumbered. And then, of course, the airship and backup units arrive. And that scene, that was so, I love the timing of that scene. That scene's one of my favorites.
I loved that scene. And I really felt like that just encaptured Sergeant Bradford, even though at that point we didn't know that he was wanting to become a sergeant. Like, there might have been talk about it, but like it wasn't like a definite storyline yet. So it was just kind of like, oh, like he's really in tune with his team, and you know, like he knows that, you know, he's not alone. And I mean, I feel like all cops probably know that anyway, but he was able to really communicate that, and you know, he just felt like more confident, I guess.
Yeah. And then later he tells Gray he wants to take the sergeant's exam, which is our first little hint of Sergeant Bradford, I guess. And Gray thinks it's a great idea, and he tells him it's about time. And of course, back then, look, I'm just really happy he decided to do it, because seeing him as a sergeant now, it's like so amazing.
Yeah.
Like,
I think it gives a little bit more depth to his character too. Like we had it before, in season 4 really gave depth to his character, but I think adding that sergeant like position and that, you know, Sergeant Bradford to his name, like it really just made us feel like they were growing a character more than they were kind of like growing just Nolan, you know?
yeah.
Like they were growing other characters and stuff too in, you know, seasons 1 through 4, but it felt like, okay, now we're seeing someone else take on another position besides just T.O. I guess we saw that with Angela in season 3 as well with Detective, but it was kind of like, okay, we're seeing someone else who was a P3 kind of move up and still work with all of the police officers and not go off to detective or like intelligence or anything like that. So
Yeah, and two, I feel like Tim was the one character, of course, like most people couldn't stand him in the first episode, like the way he treated others and stuff. And I feel like he's the one character that we really needed to see character growth from.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, it's amazing to see how much his character has grown over the past few seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the chef's kiss.
Yeah. So now we have the night general. Martha, do you want to take it from here?
Yeah. So I apologize for any cursing because I wrote some of these ideas down. So the first moment we have is not Tim Bradford related, but we do have the introduction of Detective Armstrong, who had 5 dozen of the finest donuts in the break room to charm our station's officers. And we also had the introduction of Nolan's third love interest, correct me if I'm wrong, Grace. So yeah,
Yeah. She was the third at that point.
I was like, wait. I was like, it started with Jessica, and then I was like, oh my God, I completely blocked Lucy out of my mind.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on.
Okay, yeah, moving on, because I will talk about that later. And it's yeah.
I'm just gonna throw this out there. You talked about it being Armstrong's first episode. I'm still not over it. I'm still not over it.
So I was tweeting for the rewatch for 202, and I was like, man, if only Nolan knew what Armstrong was about at this episode, he would have changed a lot of things.
He opened up to him so much, so quickly, and I was like, dude, what are you doing?
And like had him over at his house. I was like,
like those walls. Like I was like, oh my God, all of those walls. Like he like till the end of the season.
Oh my God,
he was in those walls. He was breaking down those walls.
Yeah.
Oh, whoa! I just put that together. Holy.
I did too at the rewatch, and I was like, this just doesn't feel right. Like Nolan.
Holy cow!
It didn't take me until to figure out. Oh my God, those are the walls that he was like hiding evidence in.
And he was literally there as John was like, messing with what was it, the spackle or something, like the drywall.
A whole blueprint of like how I can use this house.
And John was just like went right over his head, like he did not even think about it. He's a very trusting character, which is great, but it was just like rewatching that, I was like, man, if only he knew then what he knew now, he wouldn't have done that.
Because he did the same thing with Nyla too. Remember when they first introduced her, and she was introduced as a bartender, and Nolan was just
and
talking to her,
talking. Yeah. Oh my God.
What was that? There's a line in the 402 that Bailey was like, "You're too trusting." Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is going to be interesting with his new rookie to see how
how trusting he is of her. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, I'm ready. Like, I'm ready to see what John Nolan gets up to in season 5. Like, I really am. I mean, I like him. I have no problem with him, but sometimes I'm like, dude, you just look for trouble. Like, literally, even Armstrong said that. He was like, trouble just finds you, huh? And I'm like, yeah, it does. And
literally
not the best.
That's why Smitty named him Unlucky Charm, and that's why I use it in my TikTok so often. He's unlucky. Like, he's very much like, granted, we understand it's a TV show, it's built like that, but it's like, sir, you just
yeah. That's why I call him a walking caution sign.
Yeah.
Like,
yep.
Yeah. Sometimes. He's something. That's for sure. Yeah, and like makes it more enjoyable, Yeah. But anyway, 202.
Sorry.
We got off on the Detective Armstrong tangent and everything. So
I honestly kind of do miss Nick, like Armstrong, like before knowing everything that he did.
They would have been like a good like detective duo. I don't know, like if Nick was on the straight and narrow, that would have and Nolan would have become a detective.
Yeah,
they would have been a cool duo. Yeah.
Off tangent. And then also we get the more progress into Tim being taking the sergeant's exam, like getting a split second leadership, and he's like, oh, like gives Lucy the book while they're in the shop. If I have to suffer, so do you. Which reminds me of Lucy and Simone for 419, where they're in the car chase, and Tim's like, oh, you're going to be a LAPD cautionary tale. She's like, no, we're in the car together. We are going to be the cautionary tale, not I, which I thought was funny.
Yeah. They're in it together.
Yes. And then like also continuing in the shop, I memorize best when I hear it. For me, Tim admitting that is important because one, obviously every individual has a different method of learning. Like I'm very much like a visual person. Like I can't just like when a teacher's talking and I'm having to take notes for like college and stuff, I'm like, nah, I need
and
to
that's
see
how I
how.
learned best is through writing things
Mhm.
out.
And then also like Tim, you see, I don't know, maybe this is probably just me really like interpreting like the scene on my own, but you kind of see Tim like, I don't want to say shut down, but like he becomes like sad in a
You
way.
totally see his face change for sure.
Okay.
He's just like he becomes more like quiet and wants the conversation to disintegrate essentially and like not have it happen.
And it's like, oh, like I was wondering like obviously in hindsight we know more about Tim and everything. Like I was wondering like what his thought process was, like, oh, like this is another thing that makes me so messed up, you know, or something like that.
Well, because I feel like he just like his automatic, this is what I get for studying some psychology in school, like his like automatic like response is like walls up, like defense, like I need to like protect myself from like anyone else's judgment, even if it's just like Lucy's observation, like she's not putting a judgment on him. But like I feel like that's just his automatic, like he's so used to trying to like, you know, defend like why he is the way he is or like his methods to people, that he's probably just like, oh, I can't deal with another person like questioning like why I am the way that I am.
Yeah. Also, as a fellow psychology major, we are saying do not self-diagnose. Please go to a professional. If you want an accurate diagnosis, do not self-diagnose. End of psychology tangent.
I just love that part of that they introduced that part of Tim. Like that's just like that's just one of the little layers of him, and that's just like the fact that he has, like you said, like he has a learning disability, and like you said, so many people do, and I think they can identify with that. But yeah, I love that little tidbit. It's so soft. So sweet.
And next we meet Rex the bounty hunter, and you know it's kind of like obviously before they show up they're kind of like, okay, what's gonna happen? And Lucy is like, okay, like, you know, you didn't, you know, call us or like, you know, call the station, like you're out here unnotified, you know. And Tim and Rex is kind of like, watch your tone, boot. And Tim's like, I don't know about that. Like, oh, you don't get to call her boot. You're retired. She's a police now. And I'm like, look, if that's not a married couple, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
And then like Rex is like, and then Lucy's like, okay, show me your bail bonds license or something to that effect. And then Rex like side eyes Tim, is like, you let her talk to her like that? Like, yes, he does. Very much so. It'd be interesting to see Rex back, you know, just for a little tidbit or something.
It would be interesting to see a lot of the characters that were like introduced as just side, or like they knew like Tim or Lucy or anyone like kind of before they became a cop, or you know, like before Tim met Lucy or anything. It would be interesting to see them come back and have like more depth brought into them, like not completely because they're not the main characters obviously, but see how they are able to like interact and like see if they can shed some light on the character that we know and love so much.
I just realized it's like another parallel for that. And I didn't catch a whole lot of parallels this one, but like you said, the 115, he had somebody from his past that knew him before, and same for this episode for Rex.
Yeah.
Later on, we find out that Rex was beaten by Nico Sandoval, who that's what the bail bonds license was for. And Tim and Lucy go after Nico, who was supposedly at his aunt's house. And I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was his girlfriend's house for every single time I had rewatched that episode, until I looked at the subtitles and I was like, oh, it's his aunt's house. I thought it was his girlfriend's house.
I didn't know that. So you just told me something I did not know.
I'm pretty sure that's his aunt's house. I'm pretty sure that's what Rex said.
That is a huge difference than his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Like, I am pretty sure it's his aunt's house. I am pretty sure that's what Rex said. And so I was like, oh. I mean, like black don't crack or anything, but also I thought like that was his girlfriend for the longest time.
Oh my
You
god.
learn something new every day.
You do, yeah.
But yeah, and so unfortunately our sweet baby angel Chenford got their asses handed to them. We are not gonna lie in that fact for a good portion of that fight.
They saw Rex, what he did to Rex, like, so like you didn't come prepared.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like earlier in the episode, Nolan and Armstrong got their asses handed them with that patient in the hospital, which you know, with Grace, and it's like, wow, like our officers are just getting their butt whooped this episode. So it's like I mean, they got him in handcuffs eventually, I guess.
I know, like I always zone in onto that later scene where he's got the cut on his lip and think, oh god, that's from like I think for the longest time I was like, what is that from? What is that from? And then I was like, oh, it's from the fight, because she said, yeah.
Well, my thing is like, you always see Tim be so like, he always tells Lucy to be prepared. Like, you don't know everything, be prepared. I mean, you don't know what you're getting yourself into. And I feel like that's one of the few times we've actually seen him let his guard down. Like, he just, I mean, he didn't expect it.
They just laughed at him.
For real, like they just laughed at him. Like, don't get me wrong, Nico, like, you know, the actor was, you know, smaller in comparison to Tim and Lucy in a way, and it's like, nah, baby, you in a world full of hurt now. So well, but at the end of the episode, Tim's in the gym boxing. This comes one of our favorite Chenford moments, the audiobook. Lucy comes in joking if she's preparing for another rematch before handing him the audiobook that she made. The book is not in that format. It's not been printed or anything like that. But Lucy's like, but that's why Lucy is like, which is why I made you one. So it's in her voice narrating Curtis Philbrick's, I don't know if I pronounced that right, Split Second Leadership Leading Men in the Line of Duty book that Tim listens to as she walks away, and he's still hitting the bag, and he's also smiling, like,
smile.
Smiling at her voice, like, I'm done.
Where did the audiobook go? Where's that recording now? I want to know where it is.
Just don't even get me started.
It's got to be in his iCloud drive, and then also has to be like saved on his phone in his favorites folder.
Yeah,
that's the only explanation.
I imagine when they have kids, one of their kids is going to be like Tim, in the sense that he learns better being read to, or he or she. And I swear to goodness, I have always imagined Tim and Lucy will record audiobooks for that kid.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there are so many like fan fiction, like on AO3. Like there's this one where Lucy went undercover, and all of a sudden there's now a daughter involved, and Tim still has the audiobook, and the little girl is like, oh, like mommy would always read to me, which is like Lucy, at night. And so Tim still has an audiobook, and so he plays it for her. Like, this is in fan fiction. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so cute. I need to see Tim as a dad. I am sorry, I'm one of those people.
I just want to see Tim with kids more. Like we saw that in ACH, you know, when he was like, where's your dad? Or what's your dad's name? And you know, the kid's like, Daddy. And I just want to see Tim Bradford with children more. Like, I don't even need it to be like his own or like his nephews or anything. Like, just make it be like a child on a case or something. Like,
but like,
give it to me.
But like later in that scene, he's like, you can ask your mom. Like,
yeah.
That's like pretend like Chenford moment. Like,
I mean, I'm still not over that little boy calling or saying like daddy and looking at him. Like, I'm honestly still not over that. But
I can remember me as like younger, like saying, oh, what's your mom and dad's name? Dad, mom. Yeah. Like, don't get me wrong, like I knew my parents' name, but like, you know, like mommy, daddy. But also we also love that Lucy went and asked Isabel about it. Kind of wish we had gotten to see that scene, which I wish we would have, because obviously Lucy had already met Isabel, and like after everything in that I forgot what episode it was when they went to Isabel's apartment.
103. I think it was 103.
She met him in she met her in 103.
Yeah.
And then again in some other episode. Pilot? Yeah. Well, yeah, but they met in 103.
But yeah, it would have been interesting because considering like Isabel was like, don't come back here. Like, don't let Tim come back here or anything. So yeah. And also Lucy says there's no shame in it. Honestly, is probably why you excel at being a cop, which obviously for Tim, that's saying something considering like his reaction to Lucy saying like, oh, that might be, you know, it's a learning difference and everything. And also like to everyone out there, there's no shame in being different at all. Obviously, if you like see all of us like on Twitter, we don't look the same at all.
No.
And there's a beauty in that. There's beauty in diversity. So yeah.
Okay.
I also love, I mean, I always just have to mention this. I also love her hair and her outfit. Like when she's walking in, like, I don't know, just her off-duty clothing. Love it.
I paid so much attention to the wardrobe. Like I want to start like another like wardrobe account or something. But like that like I need to get like other people like fashion minded or something. But
I'll do it.
Okay. But like yeah, I want that outfit to come back. Like a lot of those like season 2 outfits. I mean like they're just well dressed like every season. Like she's just got like fashionable clothes all throughout the series. But like yeah, that's pretty cute.
And her season 2 hair too. Like I don't know why, but maybe it's because I have like naturally straight hair and I can't do really anything with it. But anytime that I see someone with like wavy hair or like curly hair or whatever, I'm like, I want that. And like I love her hair like that. I want to see it more. But I also like, well, I love the way that they like do her buns and everything too, like the braid and all that. So I don't know. I love her hair and I love when it's down and she's like off duty. So yeah. But
good times.
Yeah, so then we had 213, which was follow-up day, as another Sergeant Bradford episode. So towards like the start of the episode, we see Lucy and Tim chatting in the roll call room. And I mean, can we just have like more casual Chenford conversations, please? Like it would just be it would be a really nice treat to have in season 5. But like Tim mentions that since it's Smitty's swan song, cue Smitty in the Mr. Irrelevant sash, that means that the new scores are going up soon. So Lucy goes into proud like girlfriend but also rookie mode and says that like he'll do great. And throughout their case with the gang, like later on, Tim kind of was made to like question his tactics. But Lucy is always his voice of reason, and never faltered in this episode. And she like doesn't give up trying to get through to Nevin, his girlfriend, or like the leader to Markwell. And even as Nevin like ends up in the hospital because of Markel's like retaliation, Chenford obviously like still goes in to convince Nevin's girlfriend to like help them, and she does. So towards the middle of the episode, we see Chenford in Gray's office, and he tells Tim like, you know, his sergeant exam scores. And Lucy's like, she is once again so proud, saying like, yes, I knew it, with a big smile on her face. And Gray just looks over at her like, what is going on? And
like twice during like I can't remember which one, but like it's interesting how he every time it's like they're talking about Lucy or something, or he looks over at Lucy, or it's something about like the Bradford or something. He looks at Lucy like, how is she doing? How does this connect to Lucy? Like it's gonna be like, how is she gonna feel? It all connects back like.
Well, and even like in the season 4 episodes, like when Tim didn't pick Lucy to be his aide, it was like John caught on to it, Nyla did, and it was like it's so obvious to everyone else. Like, maybe it's not obvious that they should be a couple, but like it's obvious that they have a different kind of partnership or like relationship dynamic. And it's like, why are they fighting this? Like, everyone else is questioning it. So it's interesting to see everyone else pick up on it before the two in question actually do.
They're
So.
quite really dumb.
Yeah.
I to this may say that Gray is one of the biggest Chenford shippers ever.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like whenever they do finally get together, he's going to be the one that he's like, well, it's about time.
For me, it's headcanon that Gray is going to officiate their wedding, and there's no other option.
Yes.
No other option.
He gave a speech at Nyla and James' reception, which was fine. But I think for Chenford, he needs to officiate.
Yeah.
And that be that. Yeah. And I don't know who would walk Lucy down the aisle.
I was fixing to say either he officiates or walks her down the aisle. One of the two.
Yeah.
I find that I see them because they've skipped 2 weddings so far. Like, watch it be Chenford wedding that we actually get to see.
We have to, because like you just said, we
yeah.
2.
Yes.
Like,
I mean, I would be okay with that anyway, but like also I still want to see the Lopez wedding and Nyla and James's. I mean, I'm glad that we got
mad we didn't get Lopez.
Yeah. Like, I'm glad that we did get at least the James and Nyla like reception. We didn't even get that for Lopez, but I'm still like, I just want like a little wedding.
I feel like they're leading their way up to it though, because of course, like Lopez, we didn't get. We got like the pre-scenes, what happened what should have been their wedding. Nyla and James, we got the reception.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if Nolan and Bailey ever tie the knot, we're gonna get just like this little bit, and then for the Chenford wedding, we're just gonna get all of it. They're slowly leading their way up to giving us all of a wedding.
They've been shipping since season 1, so
yeah. Which, I mean, they did mention that in the interview, like, hey, you know, and going back and watching season 1 now, like after they've kissed and everything, I'm like, yeah, I can see it. Like, I see it more now than I did when I first watched it.
Agreed.
So, yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
They have been like the 2 characters that have probably worked together or been together, like been in scenes together the most
throughout the entire show run. Yeah.
I was in a group chat that said that I think it's Nolan and Lucy and Tim that have been in every single episode since the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like, well, and you know, we've seen Nolan like switch TOs and stuff, and like, you know, we've seen Angela kind of switch up what she's doing and everything. It definitely does it is definitely like Tim and Lucy have definitely stayed partners, or at least been in each other's orbit throughout like a lot, if not all of the episodes. So but then Gray tells Tim that there's an opening in North Hollywood, and Tim's just like, yeah, I need to think about it. Because it would mean that he's moving in 2 weeks. And Lucy, again, is not so subtle in that. And she's like, 2 weeks? Like, really? And they both looked kind of sad about the possibility of splitting up. But, you know, I mean, Lucy's probably still like really excited for him just because he's, you know, advancing. So then Tim like confronts Markel with the plan of action, and he doesn't budge on letting Nevin out of the gang. So Lucy's like quoting Shakespeare, and that doesn't even let him like get him to let up. So Lucy's like, what do we do now? Tim, you know, it's just like not sure, because we made our plan and it failed. And Lucy's like, wow, never thought I would see you give up that easily. And Tim's like, if you've got a path to victory, boo, like I'm all ears. And Lucy just says, I don't I don't, but you're the king of subversive tests and tricks, and there's got to be some way to win by coming at this sideways. And I like that she was able to kind of, she like sassed back at him, but also like told him like, you can do this. I mean, like what changed now versus what you've done in the past. So then Lucy's like mini pep talk gave Tim, you know, the idea about like making the bakery the go-to spot for the LAPD. And Markel would like never dream about laundering money there. So at the end of the episode, it looks like it should be a date. Like they're standing on the corner. It looks like they could like cross the street or whatever. And we find out that Tim is passing on North Hollywood, and Lucy jokes that he's holding out for Malibu, but he says that he's not finished what he started with training her, so he's staying. And Lucy asks if he'll move up at some point because, you know, she put a lot of time into those books on tape, and he just says yeah. And they smile, and they just like, they're just too cute.
Well, if you didn't know, you like, if you saw them crossing the street, you would have just thought they were a couple. You
right.
Have like,
they were literally so close to each other. I mean, yeah, they looked like they could have been a couple. So
agreed. And I feel like the fact that, because you know, something in his mind wouldn't let him take that job. And I feel like the fact that he couldn't take that job because he hadn't finished, I mean, he says it's because he hadn't finished training her yet and stuff, which I'm sure it was. But I feel like that fact really, like, that should tell anyone anything. Like, those two are meant for each other. I mean,
yeah,
any normal, sane person would have taken that job, but no, he's in love. He can't.
And then they finish out her rookie year, and then like seriously, not much time has passed, and they're back together.
And he's a sergeant. Like,
yeah.
Well, and I love how when she asked like if he was going to move up at some point, like because she put a lot of work into those books, like he was like, yeah, like I will. And it was almost like he was holding out hope kind of that he would stay there and kind of watch her continue to grow as a police officer, but then like he would also be able to like just be sergeant. Like I feel like deep down, even if it wasn't because he liked her or anything, like he just didn't want to move. He didn't want to like leave the district that he has friends at and everything. So yeah. But then we also have 214, which Emily, I know that this is like one of your favorite episodes. So why don't you talk about this one?
Yeah, this wasn't typically a Sergeant Bradford episode, but like it has some Bradford like military past, which he had experienced as a sergeant, so it's still appropriate. So we start off in the episode with Jack. We see Lucy running into Jackson with Kojo. Not a Bradford moment, but it's really, really cute. And, you know, it's Bradford's dog. So it is a Bradford moment.
Kojo. Hashtag bring back Kojo. Bring him back.
Yeah.
Barbecue, something.
I'm waiting for M's art to officially be canon. The Chenford family.
Yes.
Because I know they have liked a lot of her stuff and they've shared a lot of her stuff. I'm waiting for like a picture frame in the like sitting on like the table like that,
like in the episode. Yeah,
like they actually like take that, they do a photo shoot with like that particular pose and everything with the dog. I'm waiting for it. Like, please do it.
That would be so awesome. Honestly, it'd be so amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Chenford's dog, so it's good.
And I feel like now that, I mean, Jackson's gone, obviously, rest in peace to him. And that's why like Lucy kind of had to like give him up, or give Kojo to Bradford. I feel like, why can't Kojo like come back and like stay at Lucy's apartment for the night or something? Like if Tim has to work late or whatever, like, you know, why not? And yeah, Tamara could dog sit. Like literally, there's so many storylines now. Just give us Kojo back.
Well, Jennifer, to add to that, hopefully soon, you know, it'll be Tim and Lucy's apartment. So Kojo will live with them.
Yeah.
So I guess the first like Bradford moment and like Lucy, they're loading up the shop, and Lucy's showing him pictures of her dog, of Kojo, and you know, she wants him to admit that he doesn't like dogs. But like later he says he loves dogs, he just doesn't think she's ready for that much responsibility. Like, why? But yeah, he says that he when he was her age, he had done 2 tours in Afghanistan and Iraq, and on the second tour he was in charge of a squad of 10 soldiers. I always like when I don't know that I like, but they always drop like the hint, like the reminder of like how different in age they are. Like I don't really like, it doesn't bother me, but it's a nice reminder to know, like to remember that sort of I don't know, that sort of special thing, the story element between them. But no, but the mentioning the Afghanistan, his time in Afghanistan and Iraq in the military, I love that they like dropped that. Like if you weren't watching, if you hadn't seen a preview or anything before, that's sort of your clue in of like, we're going to see that later. I love that little bit. And I can't remember, has there been another episode like before that they've mentioned like his military experience? I feel like there is, but I can't really specify which one there is.
Like before this one, I don't think so, but like I think in the crossover with the feds, I think they do mention that. Then also, random tidbit that I just remembered, side note, I went to my sorority convention and I met up with one of my sisters, and she follows me on Twitter. She's like, you got me watching The Rookie. She was like, you just tweet about it so much, and I see many people like follow like the rewatch account and like reply to you, so I decided to watch it. And she's like, yes, I ship Chenford. I hate it. She was like, I hated Nolan and Lucy, but I definitely ship Chenford. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. So I was like, okay. So yeah, random tidbit. But yeah.
So later, so this is kind of gets into the connection of the storyline with Bradford. John and Nyla are looking in a hotel room for some evidence when the suspect comes back and runs after seeing them. So they're on foot, they're in the street. Chenford arrives a couple minutes later in their shop and comes for backup, and they get the suspect in custody. Nolan removes the knife from him and notices he has a prosthetic leg, even mentioning that he has a military knife. When he asks how he lost his leg in combat, the suspect says, I think he says, I lost an argument with an IED. And then he turns around and he sees Tim, and this is our one other time that we hear somebody call him Sarge. Mitch calls him Sarge, and turns out Tim's was his squad leader in Afghanistan. They're booking him. Tim is asking what happened, and he had a fiance and a job lined up with Wounded Warriors, but Mitch has said he moves on. And then Lucy adds that Mitch doesn't seem to like Tim, and he shares that he's the reason that Mitch lost his leg. And Gray, and we find out why later on. Gray tells them to call off the search and hold off on everything. But Tim has other ideas. Yeah, they find out that it's like they have to call LA clear. So John questions if they just walk away, and Nyla responds if we're smart. And she looks at Tim, and they kind of share this eye contact. And she asks what he thinks. So he sasses back, saying it's clearly a federal operation and they don't have enough information to know how to proceed. And Nyla adds that they need to get information. They ask the rookies, like, how do you, like, remind him, because they were talking about that earlier in the episode of, like, you call LA clear. So they ask the rookies, and Tim asks Lucy he asks Lucy and the rookies how to get that, and they say LA clear. And Nyla asks if he's sure, and he says he owes Mitch that much. And that kind of that's kind of like a thread of like what we've kind of seen through all of these episodes, is just like we were talking about earlier, of like how he's just there for all the, like, the people that he cares about, and or just like his team or whatever. And now, like, another person from his past. But yeah. So he gets on the phone and he says they should all step outside. He's going to answer some personal questions, and Lucy's like, not a chance. They're all staying.
I want to know what the personal questions were, and, like, you know, the answers, because what is it, Bethsaida or whatever, like, is the city, right? But I feel like it can also mean like other things or something. I don't know. Like I just want to know what the personal questions were, because Lady Marmalade was one of them, and I was
about to say, I still to this day want to see a karaoke scene with that song.
And he also said something about Xanadu, and John was like, Xanadu, and Tim gave him a look. So I just want to know.
Both of those are like show tunes. Like,
yeah,
okay, like this sort of gets you into the like story of, like, behind the story of Bradford, like, and like, yeah, and he's just like we learn later in season 4 that he likes Doctor Who. Like, he's just so like just in his like interest. Like, I love that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if that's an interest, I don't know.
Wasn't one of the answers to the questions tarantula?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Like, is he scared of spiders, or?
I know. I have a funny feeling that Tim would be scared of spiders, but that's where the karaoke agenda came from. Like, please, like, Lady Marmalade with Tim and Angela. Please.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just
want to know what the actual questions were. Like,
same. But, like, I need to see a scene at one point in the future, back on the tarantula answer. I need to see a scene of Lucy and Tim hiking, and them coming across, like, a tarantula spider, and him just freaking out.
Yeah. And Lucy just looks at him like, seriously?
That would make sense,
and then,
because of course
and then she holds it over to him. And then she holds it over him and is like, you're afraid of tarantulas? Oh, this will be good.
See, and that would make sense, because we know we had the, like, snake episode, and he was freaked out about the snake, and she just goes over there and, like, totally knocks it out of the park, catches it and everything. So I'm like, it would make sense.
Yeah, it'd be funny to see, like, what, like, all animals. Like it seems like insects or reptiles. Like what is he? Like,
especially because he portrays the like rough and tough guy. So like him freaking out over like a tarantula or like a snake or whatever, it would just be so comical. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not afraid of spiders or anything, but like if it was a tarantula and like a big one, I would be like, no, I'm not touching that. Like I'm not getting anywhere close. So yeah, I don't know. It could just be like the tarantulas that he's afraid of, but like a normal spider, like it's like, oh yeah, this is no big deal. So
yeah, so he gets a call from Ellie Clear while he's releasing Mitch, and he meets up with Nolan, Harper, and Chen in the break room. He shares that it's a Defense Intelligence Agency operation, and it's national security. And Nyla says that they should take the night, like Gray said, and Tim agrees. When the security camera guy, who's really with the DIA, comes to Nolan's house to warn him and his little cop buddies, and then he leaves, and then out comes Nyla and Lucy and Tim. Like, at what point did they decide that they were going to like and like how did they know to like put a tracker?
Yeah.
I always feel like we missed so much between those parts.
like there was a scene that was supposed to be there and they cut it out.
Yeah.
Because we did miss a lot of information. Like, how did they come to the conclusion that it was him? You know what I mean? Like, Nolan had brought it up that he had talked to someone from the security cam company, but like, how do we know that it was, like we definitely missed something there. I want to know how they decided who was coming from where, like with John's house. Like, because Lucy snuck in the back door, Nyla was like in the house, and Tim just like appeared. So who knows where he came from?
And the cat is magic, okay?
And I feel like the way that Nolan was talking to him, it was Tim that put the tracker on the car. And I'm like, but where did Tim come from? Like, we don't know. We just saw him.
Maybe he was hiding in bushes outside of the door.
Like, because I just saw him appear, and I like rewatched it a few times. I was like, where did he come from? But
so this is a really good scene for like the rookies sticking by their TOs. Lucy says they should hit the road, and Tim's he shuts that down, say it's just a job for him and Nyla. They're the only ones going, and Lucy's says no, her and Nolan are gonna go too. Tim reminds them that if they get caught, they could get in serious trouble since they're rookies and at-will employees, and they don't have a reason to fire their boots. And Lucy says the rabbit hole doesn't scare her. And she's like, as she says, she pulls the buried alive card. And Nolan kind of also says something really I can't think of the word, but like really supportive.
Mm-hmm.
So they go to the site. Chenford is in Tim's truck. Again, I would love to see more of them hanging out like in Tim's truck. Like they had like the episode that we were talking about before, like they had to have come in his truck.
Yeah.
I need to see more of them in his truck. And I also need to see more of Chenford in blackout gear.
Yes. Full blackout gear.
Yes.
So she's asking, following up with what he said earlier about he's the reason Mitch lost his leg. and Tim's telling it, he relives it and showing his guilt. Oh gosh, I should have written down the quote, because the quote is really good. Some things matter more.
Yeah.
And for you, Jennifer, Lucy's high ponytail. It's
I love it.
Yeah, as you say, it's chef's kiss.
I just love her like outfit there too, because she had like a jacket on or whatever, and then like the high pony, and yeah, again, I love her season 2 outfits.
I was thinking about like when other times that she's had her high ponytail, and the only one that I can think of right now is when in 407 when she's in the jumpsuit. Like that's another really good. Let's have her, like, she really rocks it. Like she does. Yeah.
Well, and it's something different too, because like we see her low ponytails like when she was undercover in season 3, or in the PSA video, I think she wore a low ponytail. And so it's a nice change of pace to see like a high ponytail. Obviously like she's not in uniform or whatever, but she's still like working. So yeah.
So yeah, they're there and they do like this. Is the Black Ops them, or is the Black Ops the other people?
The Black Ops is them, I think, because they're in full blackout gear.
Okay, I see. Okay.
Because I think Tim had said something about Black Ops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love this. I just love this scene of like all of them together. But that's like to me, like that's I love all of like the Nolan, Nyla, and Tim and Lucy kind of like take-down scenes. But that's another great moment that's I thought is very Sergeant Bradford like. Like he and Nolan were the ones leading it, but it was pretty much Tim that was kind of like had the final say on what went down.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like he's kind of always sort of had that as a TO. Like he just kind of like that was something that like he would have like fallen into Sergeant like so easily. But you're almost like expected to think that like as a TO, like he's only leading his rookie, which he does. And I don't know if that's like the case in like real life, but I noticed that like they're like when they're in a small in a group or something, that he seems to be the one to kind of command the scene usually, just even as a TO. Like the one scene like that came, I mean, it's like I feel like it's sprinkled throughout, but like the first scene that came to mind was like the episode 109 standoff, when they go to the apartment and they get stuck in there. But like he was like who else? Talia and Angela were both there. He was the one like telling them like their orders, like where they're gonna go, like go, you do this. So
I feel like that's probably his personality, and maybe like if he has seniority on the job, like he just feels like he should be the one to do that. I don't know.
Yeah, that's
interesting though.
Definitely his personality. And talking about like kind of recently, I guess I was rewatching one episode where we were talking about like him being a control freak. So
yeah.
So yeah, like that whole scene, he was kind of the one in charge for most of, like he even like when Lucy questions him about the money, I think I can't remember his words right now. I'm forgetting things so easily now. But yeah, he was kind of shutting it down, like, nope, this is how it is. So then later, Gray is talking to all of them after their mission is done, and he questions what he should do when the chief calls him in the morning screaming, and Tim says he won't. And Tim is walking so later on, we see Tim walking with Mitch. He's already got Kojo with him. I think this is sort of after that scene where we get the reveal that Lucy gives her dog to Tim. I think somebody on Twitter said this too, that like, how did that all go down? Like the decision to give it to Tim, like,
and the conversation too.
Yeah.
That entire episode, I feel like, had a lot of missed moments, honestly.
Yeah, it definitely did.
There needs to be a deleted scene pack from that episode.
The Rookie doesn't do deleted scenes. I wish they did.
Because usually like shows will have blank space that we just have to like infer on. But this was like with the whole like the whole DIA guy, like we had to have that information. There was no like, oh, we can just like infer that they already. I mean, I guess we could have, but it would have just helped to have that information. Now, like Lucy's conversation with Tim about him taking Kojo, like that we can infer on. We can like, make up our own little headcanons on.
Yeah.
But it was like the DIA guy. I'm like, we need that scene of how they found that it was him and how they connected the dots. Like, that was something that we really needed. So
we have the reveal that he's now the new owner of Kojo, and he's walking Kojo, and he's walking with Mitch also, and gives him the information about the church and the job, and Mitch reminds him that it's not his fault and it's no one's fault. And that I think they do it in another episode, but of like just really like capturing and Eric does it in such a great visual way of just like capturing his guilt. Like he does it with like within like the Day of Death stuff, and then like they revisit it here like with the past of his like military. I just kind of like, it's just another one of those things of like those sort of those little Bradford layers of things that we get. I just love it.
Eric will forever be my favorite actor when it comes to emotions.
Mm-hmm. Same.
Like he portrays all of the emotions so well.
Yeah. I also want to know, I mean, I feel like they probably don't. But does Chenford like co-parent Kojo? Like I just want to know if Lucy's like, are you feeding him the right things? Like, are you making sure that he gets his exercise? And Tim's just like, yes, I am.
I feel like she's kind of the one that sort of got encouraged him, like we see in that later in season 4 episode that
salmon and eggs.
So we're watching that when I say tomorrow when this airs. We're watching it Monday, the salmon and the eggs. I feel like that was sort of Lucy's thing.
I feel like Jennifer's probably right. Like I feel like they probably don't at the moment, but I wonder if they may be leading up toward that in the future.
It would definitely be interesting to watch. I mean, I know of people like, they get a dog while they're together and then like split up and they still like co-parent the dog or whatever. Or, like one person takes the dog more so than the other. But it would be interesting to see because they weren't in a relationship at the time when she gave him Kojo. So it's kind of like, how did that go down? And was it like, Lucy kind of gave him all the tips, or was it just like, yeah, like, you know, Tim was just like, I know how to take care of a dog. Like, you know, I've probably done this before. So it would be really interesting to see. But yeah, so I feel like the point of 214, like, even though it wasn't necessarily a police sergeant Tim Bradford episode, it was still a Sergeant Tim Bradford episode in that, like, we really saw that he watched out for his coworkers and like soldiers, whether, you know, like they were kind of they didn't really get along, or they did, but like he just wants to protect them and just like make sure that, you know, they are, you know, set and they're in a good situation and everything like that. So
yeah, and I didn't plan this, but it seems to be sort of the theme of all these episodes.
Yeah. So then the first season 4 episode that we have is 402. And this is the first legit Sergeant Bradford episode that we have. So we open the episode and John is over at Lucy and Tomorrow's helping them pick out a paint color, and he asks Lucy if it's weird that Tim is no longer like her TO. And she's like, nope, he's moving on with his career, and so am I. And John's just like, and secretly you love it that he's technically the rookie sergeant. And she's like, oh, he is? Like, I didn't notice that. And we go over to Tim and he's opening his locker to find a bunch of little booties in there. Which he's got his patented, like, annoyed Tim Bradford look on his face. So then, like, Tim goes into Gray's office while Nyla's also in there. And Gray's like, yeah, I got a complaint about your uniform. And Nyla adds that the sergeant's badge, or the police officer's badge, isn't going to cut it anymore. And so she shows him the new badge. Gray ends up putting it on him. I think he put on a different one than what was in the box, because, like, what was in the box was not, or what was described as what was in the box was not on him. So then Tim's like, yeah, I won't let you down. And Gray says, oh, you will, but, you know, it's a hard transition. So we find out that Tim's starting his watch on the craziest weekend of the year. And Gray's like, yep, you're doing a roll call today, and hands him the clipboard. So I never really understood why it was Nyla in there and why Nyla was the one that, like, kind of gave him the new badge.
Yeah, I don't know, but I know that other people have sort of said this of, like, and I made a sort of a parallel to it in her first episode, because they started out kind of like
enemies in a way.
I mean, I can't see the enemies. Yeah, and so that sort of kind of a full circle moment for them, where they're like kind of more they're cordial. They're like, at this point they've worked enough time with each other. The whole thing that they like went through in Guatemala, they worked together. Like,
yeah,
they're like they've kind of grown a little bit closer.
Yeah.
And something I noticed, like, in that scene, like on this rewatch, and kind of, I think it kind of carried over in 403 too, but like in that moment, like when Gray told him that, you know, there's a problem with your uniform, like he literally looked so shocked, like he was like in trouble. Like, I don't know that I've ever seen him look that way, like he was in trouble, unless it was like Lucy. Like, I think it was, like, if it's like the job, like, anyway, I like that they sort of captured sort of like that sort of first day new job dinners. It kind of came off that way to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I was like, I remember thinking this when I first watched the episode. I was like, why is Nyla in here and like giving him the badge? And then I was kind of like, okay, well, if she was in there and like Tim ended up just like walking in like unannounced, or like Gray didn't call him in, it would be one thing. But then Tim was even like, you wanted to see me and everything. So it was kind of just like Nyla was in there just like hanging out, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I was just like hung up on that. And I was like, I wonder why it was like that. So
maybe maybe he called her in there specific. Like I know he was talking to her about Aaron Thorson, but
yeah. But then even then, that was after Tim had walked back out, like because she was about to leave, and she was like, "Wait, you said bad news. Like, what's the bad news?" So, yeah, I don't know. It was just odd, I guess. But then Gray and Tim like go into the roll call room, and Gray's like, we have a new sergeant in the field today, and Lucy is so proud, and she wants to clap, but doesn't, obviously. So Tim is like, "Let's get down to business," introducing Aaron Thorson as the new rookie. And after Aaron like introduces himself, Tim really gets down to business, saying like the weekend's gonna suck because of everything going on in LA. And the camera like pans over to Lucy. She's just so proud, so inspired. And like when they got the shot, it was like, wow, that would be like a perfect like promotional picture or something for her. I don't know. It also felt like that shot should be in the first episode, like when they're, introducing the rookies or whatever. It also kind of seemed and felt like it was I think it's a promotional photo of Titus as Jackson, like he's kind of like looking up and off into the distance. So yeah, I don't know. I loved that moment.
Similar. Yeah, I love like there was more than one moment where they hand over to Lucy and she was just like proud wife moment. Like, I was gonna say earlier in like the previous one, like she'll always be like his biggest supporter.
Yes,
like,
biggest
always.
cheerleader.
Or biggest cheerleader. Like she's just like just the big grin she had on his face, like once he walked up to the podium, and like same girl, same. I've got the biggest smile too. Like that.
And I feel like after we saw like how his dad treated him, like I feel like Tim's not used to that, like used to having that, because I mean I would assume that Isabel wasn't necessarily like that either. Maybe she was before like the drugs and everything. I don't know, but yeah, it's definitely like I feel like it's something different for Tim that he kind of has to get used to, because he's never really had someone like in his corner like that. Like he probably has to an extent, but for Lucy it's a lot different, because she always wants to be like the happy-go-lucky, like positive person. So
I've always thought like they just sort of, they're kind of like two different puzzle pieces that just kind of fit together.
Yes.
That's like, they're two different people, and they sort of complement each other all the time. And that's why they're endgame.
Yeah. No other word to describe them besides endgame. So but then as Tim's going on, Gray's expressions change, because Tim's just like, he's giving it to them straight. And when Tim's done, Gray's like, were you trying to get them to quit? And he's just like, I'm just trying to keep it real here. Like, I don't know what you want me to do. And so Gray and Tim are writing together, and he's given some lessons and tips. And Gray's like, lesson 1, don't get to the crime scene first, because getting to the scene first can hurt an officer's confidence and tell them that you don't really trust them. So we kind of see that when they roll up on a scene with that Nyla and Aaron responded to. And Gray's, kind of asking Nyla, like, or they ask Nyla where like Aaron Thorson is and everything. And Nyla's kind of like, yeah, he shouldn't be a cop. And Gray's like, well, it's a good thing that he's got the best TO in the business. And Tim pipes in and he's like, he can say that now because I'm promoted. And Nyla just kind of like gives him a look. And Gray like goes back to Tim and he's like, can your focus go back to the scene? Like, what should we do? And Tim's just like, yeah, we should go canvas while LAFD clears it. And Gray's just like, we? Like, no, you're a supervisor. You stay here and coordinate the response. And so Tim's leading, and, everyone's kind of following his lead. And they're trying to take down Claire Ivy, who is, you know, the like she's leading the heist. So Tim's like surveilling and leading the teams from the van, just being a badass sergeant, like, you know, just doing it all by himself in the van. So then Tim like goes after the team that Claire is working with when he loses the eye, and ends up in a charter bus and lifts up a trap door in the floor to see a tunnel like getaway. It was kind of weird.
It was funny. He's just like, he's telling like all units go like I can't remember, but all units go find them or something like that. And it's like, and he doesn't even wait, like it's almost like just a second, and then it's just like he darts out. It's like, that's Tim Bradford.
Yeah. So then, you know, like after everything's happened, Tim's like, or Gray tells Tim that, you know, what happened today can't happen again if he expects to keep his stripes. And Tim stands up for himself, saying like, you know, he stepped up and took charge. And Gray's just like, yeah, but putting yourself in the center of action, like it wasn't a tactical move, but you know, when push came to shove, like, you know, you just didn't trust anyone else to do it. And Gray even goes so far to say like control freaks don't make good sergeants, which we later then see Lucy make a similar comment about him being in control. And that's definitely a Tim Bradford thing, is he likes to be in control. So then Tim's like, you know, I know that you have decades of experience, but I have my own too. And he's like, directing the action from a distance works for Gray, but it doesn't work for him. And he has to find his own way of being a sergeant. So there was that. And then Gray's like, oh, it's also important to give praise, and an attaboy from the boss goes a long way. So Tim kind of sits back and he's like, well, it goes against my nature, but I'll try. So then we get another little Chenford scene, and Lucy sneaks into the locker room and goes into Tim's locker trying to open it, when he comes out and he's like, what are you doing? Like, why are you at my locker? And she ends up having another set of booties in her hand, and she said that she's paying him back. And he's just disappointed and thought she was more original, which for a minute I was like, what is she paying him back for? Like, this was not the episode that, you know, she couldn't become his aide until like the very end. So what exactly is she paying him back for? Like, I want to know. Did I miss it?
Like, I guess maybe like in general for her rookie year, maybe.
Yeah.
And also, like, how did, like, I loved him, but like, how did she know what his, you know, his code was to get into his locker?
That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm assuming that the locker rooms are not co-ed, but they could be as an adult. I don't know. But like, also, so I'm assuming she knows where his locker is, because like probably Nolan or whatever, she got him on the prank. But like the code is what I'm hung up on. Like, how does she know that? And also, what is his code? Is it something like personal, or is it like just, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4? Like, who knows? But like, how does she know that?
Like, I wonder, really want to know. They're playing on like Tim being like quote unquote like a traditional man, and maybe she's like, oh, like Tim, you know, like for riding with him for like, you know, over a year and whatnot, she's like, oh, he would probably choose this as a code or something, you know. And it's like,
but she got them in the first place, so she has to know someone who got it in.
There's also a callback, like, well, I don't know if it's a direct callback, but I did a callback parallel to that of like when she because it's like she was pranking him, and so her first prank to him was in 106 when she took his wallet, and that's my thing. Like, I kind of think of it as like he kind of just voluntarily told her on accident one day or something.
Yeah. I didn't really think about it. Yeah,
that's kind of how the wallet thing happened.
Yeah, I could see like him accidentally telling her not really thinking about it. And Lucy just like files that away, thinking like, oh, if I ever need that, I've got it. Yeah. No, that's a good thought. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, because I would assume that, I don't know. I know like in high school and stuff, when we had lockers, like the gym teachers would be like, okay, what's your, locker combination, so that like if we ever need it for emergencies, like we can get in or whatever. I would think that they would do that at the police station, but I mean, they're also adults and they, are in very like high risk jobs. So they have to like be very responsible. I don't know. I was just like, how did she get in there in the first place? But I'm like overthinking it at this point. So
But
then
like the last thing that you said, like of that, like that they said of their banter. Well, now I can't remember the quotes. But like I love the banter, like the whole like temperature of that scene. Like I think talking about like when we originally saw it is like it kind of seemed like they would be like in like people thought they were sort of in a secret relationship in a way. But like yeah, the temperature of that sort of almost matches like in sort of more playful way, but it sort of matches the temperature they had sort of in 403 in that roll call room scene.
Well, and this was all after they had that hug. So it was kind of like after they had the hug, they were a little bit more like playful with each other too. So, but yeah, so she says she accidentally ordered the booties twice. And so she's like, here, like, you can have them. And he stops her as she's leaving and gives her a Nolan praise. And you can tell that it's like really hard for him too, because he's not used to it. I feel like he is someone who, I mean, as a child, like didn't receive a lot of praise, didn't give a lot of praise. And so like that just carried into his adulthood. So, like she asks him what else he appreciates about her, and he goes from soft Tim to sassy Tim, like real quick. And I mean, I would like to hear what else he appreciates about her, but that's just the fangirl in me. But then like he shakes his head and laughs like as she walks away, looking down at the boots and opening his locker. And I really just want to know like what he did with all of those boots and like what he thought and how much they were, because like she probably ordered like a pack of 24 or whatever, and they looked more like baby boots than like anything else. So I just have questions. I'm overthinking it and it's late at night, so it's fine.
No, I have the same thoughts of us. Like what did he do with them? I'm like, he kept them. They're kids.
All I'm gonna say is they better use those booties for their little babies one day.
Yeah. But that wraps up 402. We have the last Sergeant Bradford episode.
I had to mention the smile though, like before we wrap it up.
Yeah.
Got it in 202, and then that's like the Tim Bradford is in love with Lucy Chen smile. I just have to mention that. Like got it in both of those. It was nice.
Well, and he just like it's more than just like a tight-lipped smile. Like he's showing teeth. He's kind of like nodding his head, chuckling a little bit. Like it's pure wholesome love right there.
I'm also still to this point upset that we did not get Tim walking out shirtless, wrapped in a towel.
There was a lot of potential there.
Yep. Yeah.
That was a missed opportunity, big time.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, I'll go ahead and talk about 403 a little bit. So it starts off, Gray tells Tim that he has to cover C division because there's like only 2 like roving sergeants for like the 6 divisions that they have. And he also suggests that Tim should get like a sergeant's aide, and even like goes as far as to suggest Chen because they work so well together. And so Tim's like kind of left considering that possibility. When they go into roll call, Tim starts off with like the aide announcement who's going to be like his gopher. And Lucy and John are sitting next to each other. Since Nolan happened to be in the locker room, like unintentionally eavesdropping, he, like when Tim and Gray were talking, he knows that Tim may pick Lucy, which is like what he ends up telling her. So kind of gets her hopes up a little bit. But for a minute, you do kind of think like, oh, like Tim may actually pick her because of their like eye contact and just their usual, you know, like what Chenford does all the time. But he doesn't because Webb is sitting behind Lucy, and so he picks Webb instead. And cue Lucy's disappointment, which is like a theme throughout the episode. And so the next kind of scene we get is like Tim, well, he gets to go through like I don't know if it's like the clipboard is like actually like there or not, but just like the, you know, like the roll call of everything. And like, it's just kind of cool to like see, like Tim and Gray, like they start the episode off, which is kind of nice. And then, I don't know. I just think it's just nice. Like, I hope we get to see more of that. Like, either the both of them, like at the what is it called, podium?
Yeah,
that's the word I want. Or just like I don't know, because you know, like how like in season 1 when Gray like made Nolan go up to the podium and like do the things. Like, it just would be kind of fun to see like Gray just like watching Tim like in his element or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. That'd be fun. But anyway. So back to Tim and Webb, they're like driving, talking about baseball of all things. Webb mentions he gets like season tickets to game, and like he kind of offers them to Tim, who like may take him up on that. So they kind of have like a good rapport so far. Side note though, like baseball date for Chenford when. So
please, it's like all that I want. I don't know why, but
I've always said at some point in the future we need either a baseball or football game date with Lucy wearing Tim's Dodgers uniform or Rams uniform.
Yeah, like the
jersey.
jerseys, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like Lucy would be, I don't know, maybe this is because I'm like deep into a Gilmore Girls rewatch, but I feel like she would kind of be, she would channel like her inner Lorelai Gilmore and just like completely just like asking a ton of questions during the baseball game, like, you know, what's going on, like where's that, you know, just all of those questions. But I feel like she also would, because it's very Lucy Chennifer, I feel like she would do a lot of research before and know like the ins and outs of baseball, and like even research the players, like know a lot about them to begin with.
They would know like how fast they pitch, or like who's on, like, you know, who usually plays like shortstop or something.
I feel like she would have like kind of those two personalities like at the game, and kind of in the Lorelai Gilmore like Lucy Chen personality would just like annoy the shit out of Tim, but he would love it.
Jennifer, I kind of agree with you. Like I feel like she would ask a million questions because I mean, like, you know, in the episode with the football thing, like the football themed episode.
Oh, it's really sudden, yeah.
Well, it was when they were doing like the points and stuff, taking points. And now I cannot remember the episode. It was season 1. They were taking points and stuff and talking about like how a felony was worth.
Oh, was that the checklist one?
No, it was early. If they were taking points, it was
is it 105?
It is 5. I cannot remember the name of the episode at the moment. The roundup, yes.
Yeah. So like they were talking about how like a felony arrest was worth like what a touchdown would equal in football.
Yeah.
And Tim literally looked at her and he said, didn't he say like that's 6 points if you didn't know it or something? I feel like there was a point where he said something like that to her.
That I don't know.
I could be wrong.
I don't remember.
I could be wrong. I could definitely be wrong. I may be dreaming that or something. But I feel like there was a point where he said that. But anyway, that was what I was getting at. Like, I feel like she just based off that, I feel like she would be the type to ask a million questions. Like she wouldn't know what was going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like the next time we see everyone like meeting up, they're like getting coffee in the park. Lucy sees Tim and Webb. Kind of just is like, I'll be right back. She's gonna go chat with them. In the meantime, though, we get the lovely scene of like Nyla asking John, like, well, why didn't Bradford choose Chen as his gopher? And John's like, yeah, I don't know, but she's not handling it well. Like, which I mean, she's not, because like, you know, like Lucy, all she would kind of allude to or like start to talk about with John at first was the fact that like, oh, she knows that Tim is gonna miss her. She knows that Tim would, you know, be like this, and it's all about Tim even when they're apart. So
it's still my favorite moment when they walk out of the elevator in the hospital and she's like, but why didn't he pick me? Like, it just, to me, I don't know, it just reminds me of like a little kid like asking like, well, why can't I have that? Like, you know, why don't they want to play with me? Like, I don't know, just kind of like they're upset, they're, you know, like a little frustrated with it, but yet that's how they have to express their emotions. So yeah.
And so Lucy goes over to Webb and like asks how it is riding with Tim. He says it's been great, and she tries to give him a few tips about like riding with Tim, which I thought was like kind of funny. I don't know, not like, well, yeah, I guess like funny considering that like, you know, like her intentions are different because like she was it the episode before when she like had first talked to Aaron, or am I thinking too far ahead already?
I think it was when they had like he called her on the phone.
That or like the candy bar or like the energy bar.
I think it was later.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, just like
they hadn't really talked to Aaron at this point. Like only John did, I think, to introduce himself.
Yeah. Just because it's like, you know, like Lucy's intentions are to kind of like, there's that underlying tone of like, I do kind of want to mess with Tim, but like also not like completely.
I'm still wondering whether she actually did.
I know. I mean, like, I feel
it was
like
alluded to, but
like I feel like she like kind of would want to make him think that. So just it would still like drive him crazy, even though she actually didn't really do anything.
Yeah, it was alluded to, but it wasn't like.
I feel like that's like the psychology in her.
Yeah,
would like try to do that. But like their conversation doesn't really last that long because that's when the gunshots are heard and they think it's like a sniper. We get a little bit of like, you know, Tim being in charge for the moment and trying to like, you know, gather everyone up until like Gray makes it to the scene and Tim gives him a rundown as well as like the rest of the teams. It's like I said, more like Tim and Gray like moments would be nice, I think. And so later on, Tim and Webb are driving again. Webb mentions that intelligence doesn't have anything and like the suspect's not on their radar. And he offers to call the records department, but Tim says he'll call LA Clear. So there's the 214 connection a little bit, which is fun. And so after that, Webb is kind of trying to like break up the awkwardness. And it's not really like tension, but just awkwardness of
seriousness. Yeah.
Yeah, seriousness. Yeah. with the cat personality questions, which I just thought was so funny because he's just like, he's so casual. He's like, well, what's your cat personality, Sarge? Like, it's not even like Tim or like Bradford. It's just like Sarge. And I'm like, dude, you're so like, and he just says it with such like a straight face too.
Yeah.
So it's like, you really don't know if it was just him or if it was like, you know, somehow Lucy.
The way he starts with that he transitions that conversation into like, well, yeah, that's a weird case. I like weird.
Well, and like what makes him
Casually.
like, yeah, like what makes him like bring up the cat personality? It's just weird. Like if it wasn't Lucy, then it's even weirder because it's like, what? Like what?
Just of all the things. Yeah, like I don't know. Like I thought I don't know. Like you'd think since they were talking about sports earlier, they would talk about sports again or something. But just I don't know. Maybe so. That's what kind of makes me think that it maybe was Lucy, but then also not. I don't know. God's gonna bug me. It really is. Especially since like Tim is obviously like, did Lucy put you up to this? Like he already is like, that's the number one like first thought in his head.
Yeah.
Which is what makes like the next scene kind of funny, just because, you know, later he walks up to her in the roll call room and is like, if you want the job, all you had to do is ask. And like instead you go and sabotage Webb. Saying, and he said that the cat personality thing had her written all over it.
I love the way that he said that too. I was just like, yeah, I don't know. It's just too good.
Yeah.
The conversation was just like, you know, excuse me, but it's the conversation between the two was just hot. Like the temperature.
It was.
The temperature went up in that like.
It was the
like
sass.
Of them standing out there. Yeah.
It was the sass, and it was almost kind of like sexual tension there.
Yeah,
in a way.
it was
like. Like tell me what you want, and it, you know, and then they like she flipped it back on him, and it was really
good. And that line, like the line that she sort of leaves him with, like you said, like if you want me to ride with you, then just ask me. And like the way she says it is just like, so like you said, like there's sexual tension and like leaving, like we're talking about like leaving Tim speechless. You know, we left off with the finale, like she kissed him and left him sort of speechless. And so it's like I don't necessarily think he's speechless, but he's just like he like there, like you can see sort of the fire in him, like he's not necessarily like he's kind of upset, but he's kind of like, I don't know, like could he be like turned on or something? I don't know.
He's almost like, what do I say next? That doesn't necessarily cross that line, but it does get closer to it. Like he's trying to figure it out. He's trying to figure her out. But this entire episode, because even at the end, I mean, the sexual tension was just like radiating there. At least on this rewatch for me, it was like, okay, I see it. And I don't know if it's because of the season 4 finale that I was like, oh my God, there we go. But I was just like, yeah, this 403 was just like the sexual tension, and it came after the hug, so it was like, were they just trying to be a little bit more playful because they had that serious scene, or was it because they were, you know, just trying to like find the friendship again? Like who knows? But the sexual tension, I noticed it on this rewatch. I was like, gosh, it's like palpable there.
I feel like they're in a sense like after the events of like the wedding, like him, like around that time, like him asking her to dance and then like the hug, like I feel like there was a sense of like before like she became his aide, it's like there, and I feel like he's kind of always contemplated this, but like of like the idea of like could like I'm interested in her, could we have like, he's kind of almost slightly entertaining the idea of like a romance or something, like because like later, you know, because he's like he's been like he dropped like, again, he drops that fishing like later on in the season too, but like later he's talking about like, you know, very handsome boy, like, and that's like that's sort of a sexual thing, like we can talk about it later, but like
in a sense I'm kind of with Emily. Like I feel like after the hug and the events of the wedding, I feel like there was kind of a small sense of the lines being blurred as to what their relationship was.
Yeah.
Like, just in a small sense. I feel like it's even more so now after the kiss, definitely. But I feel like back then it was kind of that. So I feel like that kind of led to a lot of the, like you said, sexual tension we got in those episodes.
Yeah, they were trying to see how far they could go and like play with the boundaries. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that scene was just like kind of gives me a little bit of like 203 end scene vibes a little bit, just because it is like you have Tim that like doesn't really know what else to say like after that, and then Lucy's just like, ha, I got the last word in, kind of thing.
He's still so kind of like heated when he's up on the podium, like just to watch him sort of squirm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like, you know, Gray comes in, they're like trying to start the day. And then Tim being Tim is like, he's gonna give someone else a chance at being the aide, and he's obviously like eyeing Lucy the whole time. He's like kind of smirking a bit, so you have that like flirty kind of undertone a little bit.
I feel like right before he like says, well, right before he says Smitty, like he's still like, because you said he's like looking at Lucy, like he has one last glance at her, like kind of almost, it's not very long, but it seems long, kind of like a long pause of like contemplating, am I gonna do it? Am I gonna ask her?
Yeah. But then he kind of like nods a little bit and is like, Smitty. And then, you know, everyone, you know, like Smitty is, you know, as surprised as Nyla, who's, you know, diagonal from him, looking like seriously like this actually happened.
I also just love like Tim's look to Lucy, and he's just like, how about that? Like, you know,
like he's bobbing his head a little bit. It's funny. And Lucy obviously vocalizes her like disappointment. She's like, seriously. And I just like how Gray was like, something to add, and she's like, no sir. Like she definitely is like, you know, frustrated, and
he definitely catches on. He catches on to her things. I mean, it's like, how could you not? But like that, and kind of the parallel from the last episode, like, you know, when she was like, oh, I knew that you could do it. He was like, what? Okay. Like looked at her, and now this one, he's like, do you have something to say? Like, you know, there's something going on here. So
yeah.
Well, no one's like, everyone's catching on.
Before we like move on from this scene, like I always, that last part where where after Smitty leaves and he's like leaving the room, like I just kind of I pause like on that like frame, like as he's leaving, but it's like it's such like a little married moment, because like the body language too, like you see Lucy kind of like she has her hand on her hip and she's like smirking, like she's like almost laughing, but like, and he's like kind of like his face is just so funny, like he's just sort of like embarrassed, or like like he's done something, not necessarily done something wrong, but like
he was like regretting his decision. He's like, he knew what the end goal was.
Exactly.
Now I'm stuck with it.
But like I like, that's kind of like, to me, like that's kind of like a little married moment of like, I don't know, it just like when I pause that frame, it's just like, that just seems like married Shenford.
And obviously Smitty's like, am I actually gonna have to be working? And Tim's like, essentially, no, I've got it, like I'll get the war bags, I'll do everything. So I kind of wish that like we would have gotten like more than just like the casual like conversations between like Tim and Smitty.
Like actually see them working together.
Or well, Tim working, Smitty just chilling, but still. like to actually see them like out and about, I guess, more.
Also, I find it hot whenever he whenever he carry, like they were talking about him carrying the bags, like you see it in like, what is it, 406, and he's got it on there.
Yeah.
And then I think he does it in 405. Just like, I like seeing that.
Yeah. I would have liked to see Smitty and Tim working together. I mean, we saw Smitty and Jackson for like what, an episode or whatever, but I feel like, I don't know, it would be hilarious to see Smitty and Tim working together, especially with Tim as a sergeant.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And obviously everyone's, well, not everyone's favorite scene, but you know, the scene that people talk about is like the end of the episode. Lucy sees Tim doing paperwork and she's wondering like why Smitty's not doing it. No, Smitty's apparently allergic to paper, which I call BS on, but you know, it's Smitty. So I'm just surprised like Tim like really let it go. I mean, I guess there's really no like winning because like Smitty just walks away from like every situation that he doesn't want to be a part of anymore.
Yeah.
And is really good at avoiding things. So I guess it's like a no win for him.
Well, and Tim had already put up with Smitty's BS through the rest of the day. So it was like, well, I guess like what else is gonna happen, you know?
And Lucy's just like, well, you should have just asked me. He said he was doing her a favor because some might see it as like a demotion for her to be like working with her training officer again. And then others might read something else into it. And that's where we get the why, because I'm a girl and you're a boy. And I love Eric's delivery of like certain lines. It just really it cracks me up because he's like a very handsome boy, like with the like the head, like the tilt of the head, and like just the, you know, the body language too. Just is so funny.
It's just their entire like flirty banter here because it's like her voice changed when she was like, "Why? Because I'm a girl and you're a boy." Like, you know, it was just it was kind of like when you're in school and you're like, "Oh, I can't play with a boy," and it's like, why? Like, I don't know. It was just the flirty kind of playful banter.
Yeah.
And it was chef's kiss. Yeah.
And then obviously she's like, oh God, like she like didn't even want to like entertain it. And you can, I didn't notice that you could actually like see him smile at that reaction, like he looked down.
Yeah, he would, yeah.
Until I watched like the YouTube clip that they have of it. So it was kind of fun because I like mimicked the 402 smile a little bit, just not as like broad or like long as the camera stayed on it, I guess. But anyway, like, so Lucy, I mean, she appreciates the concern, but she's just kind of like, well, screw what everyone else thinks, because like, you know, being an aide would look good come promotion time, which honestly kind of like reminds me of like Tim's whole thing with like the award or whatever in 208, because he's like, well, I don't really care about it, but it looks good to the higher up. So like I feel like she's like kind of learning from him in that way. Like not that she's not ambitious, but just like the like pushing forward more, like being like more aggressive, I guess, in like her work style.
I have to note, like, when it kind of goes along with like the facial expression, but like he, like as she's talking, and I noticed this in a lot of their scenes, and I've been noticing it every time I rewatch the kiss scene in 422, but like as she's talking, like he's just very intently listening to her. Like he's looking at her. Like you can definitely tell that he's like taking everything in that she's saying. And I just like, I've noticed lately, and I just love that.
I feel like that's like an Eric thing, because like I'll notice that in like interviews too, like whoever's talking.
Oh yeah,
is very, very intense.
I was seeing how like Lucy just completely blew everything he said off. Like, you know, who cares what other people think? Seeing her kind of blow that off into that, honestly, like seeing it now, I feel like that gives me more hope for Chinford in the future, because I said before that, I always kind of felt like Lucy would be the person that was kind of worried about what a relationship with him would do to her career. But seeing her blow that off, and of course it's not quite the same because, I mean, that's just, they didn't have a relationship going at the time. But seeing her kind of blow that off, I feel like gives me more of an idea that maybe she wouldn't, I mean, if she's really in love with him, maybe she wouldn't care as much, like, in a sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like when season 1 or whatever, when Talia found out about her and Nolan, she was, like you could see the worry on her face, and like,
Yeah.
even though she was still kind of invested in that relationship, like obviously Nolan wasn't. And so like Tim, I don't know, just like because I feel like Tim is like as invested as she is in like keeping their partnership going in some way. So I feel like they're like on a more even or like equal playing field. So it's like hopefully their feelings will get there in that, same amount of equality in time.
And too, like what you just pointed out with like how you can see the worry on her face in season 1. I feel like that honestly shows a lot of the character growth Lucy has went through too. Like she's still the same person, but she's grown more comfortable in like how, I guess, what, I don't really know how to word that.
Like just like how people see her, or like how her like relationships play out. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like now that I'm thinking about it, I feel like it kind of goes back to like 211, because it's like they had this like vulnerable public moment that like obviously, I mean, it like, worked for the storyline at the like, end when Tim's the one that like gets to her. But like I always go back to, she could have like anyone could have pulled her out of the barrel and like held her or whatever, but it was like Tim.
Yeah.
And so I feel like after that they kind of were just like, well, this is our like, not relationship, but this is like how we are with each other, and it's like, they're obviously important to each other. So I feel like they both just kind of threw that like caution to the wind or whatever the expression is, and it's like, but now they both kind of like reined it in a little bit, obviously, and then, but yeah, so it is refreshing to see Lucy be the one to be like, okay, nope, don't care.
This is a completely random thought, but like you were just mentioning how their relationship now is like with him pulling her out of the barrel and stuff. And I don't know why this just made me think of that scene where of course, like we all know Lucy and Jackson were closer than anybody really. I mean, like they, it reminds me of the scene when Lucy is like laying there with Jackson after Chris, or like, what's his name? Chris, the cop.
No, not I'm at.
Yes, he was the Jackson's friend.
Yeah, the other.
Yeah. When they found out that like he died and they were at home and Lucy was laying beside of Jackson, I don't know why that reminded me of that scene, but I swear at some point in the future, like when, of course, like when how Chinford are like how Tim and Lucy are so close now, or closer as friends. I kind of want to see a scene of Lucy comforting Tim at some point in the future, similar to that. It doesn't have to be the same, just like somehow similar to that. I want to see a scene of this. Which I guess the hug kind of gave us that in a way too.
Yeah, like 409. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just thought it was kind of funny that she like was like, well, it's gonna make it worth it to put up with all the Tim tests and like the old school honor codes and everything. And then obviously Melissa and Eric being so in sync again, like they cross their arms at the same time, and the next moment they both like their bodies are like tilted opposite directions, but like it, you know, is like mirroring each other. And I just love their lines again, just how they deliver it. They're like, you know, because she's like, are you saying you want the job? And she's like, if we're saying you want me to do it, like she, you know, it's just this whole thing. And like
she keeps like throwing it back on him.
I just love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously, like I said, that's one of my favorite moments where Tim's just like, all right, like what the hell, like let's do it. And so she has to get in early tomorrow, and he'll get her up to speed on everything. And then they have that like, or well, he does the little like finger pointing thing at the end. She doesn't do it like how she did in 402, but just, you know, she's like, good luck on your paperwork. And he just kind of like, not shoos her away, but just is kind of like, I'm doing the motion again. No one's going to see it. So I don't know why I keep doing it, but just, you know, the thing, if you've watched the scene, you know what I'm talking about. Just a little like motion. I just think it's fun. Like the 402 and 403 like had kind of a little bit of like similarity in that way.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so to kind of end this episode, we wanted to kind of talk about a Sergeant Bradford scene that we would like to see in season 5. Since this, I mean, I guess last season he was like a sergeant throughout the entire season, but I mean, really from 501 to potentially 522, like he will be a sergeant. Hopefully he doesn't lose his stripes. Emily, is there a scene that you would really like to see for Sergeant Bradford?
I came up with a specific scene, but like when I saw this question when I first started, I was like, I got nothing. I honestly, I don't think I'd ever really thought about it that much. But then once I started like thinking about it and like writing stuff down, I was just like, well, then there's this and this. So sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I think like we got some really great moments in season 4. So it was kind of hard to think of like some things for season 5 maybe. But I thought like, you know, these aren't really specific, but maybe leading without Gray being around. Like we got where he was he did watch commander duties, like just more of that.
Yeah.
I also really like the episode where he worked with Aaron. Like I feel like that was more probably him being like a TO again.
Yeah.
But I would I would just like to kind of see him sort of mentoring Aaron more, you know.
Maybe Tim can like do that until Aaron finds a like permanent TO or something.
Yeah. And then I was thinking about like how Gray and Anderson have kind of like he's already done his like he's already kind of done a speech like we talked about in 407 on the, I don't know what people call it, but it's like the platform or the stairs or whatever. And I know we've seen like Gray and Anderson do that, and I know for sure like a couple of times we've seen Gray kind of give a speech in times of like hard times, peril. And I don't know, when I first wrote this, I thought maybe it'd be like, I would imagine it'd be kind of hard for Tim. Because I was thinking about like how his sort of first few moments as sergeant were, like when he was at the podium kind of talking to everybody, he was just very like kind of like as Gray would put it, like very drill sergeant, like without very little emotion. Because like when we watch Gray, there's like up there is a lot of heart like when he's up there. But I mean, like we saw in 407, I think there was a lot of heart for Tim in that moment. But like it would be different like if it would be something more serious. I don't know, like I started thinking maybe it might not be as hard for him. And like thinking like it's easier for Lucy. I think that was like sort of my avenue into this sort of like moment that I kind of popped in my head. But like I think it would be kind of a nice moment if he's out there and struggling, and Lucy is sort of down and off to the side, and he looks at her and just like she gives like, because she's like his biggest supporter, but like she gives him a look of support, and then he's like able to continue. I don't know. That's a Chenford. That's not really Sergeant Bradford moment, but the Chenford moment. But
it's definitely
it kind of came to me that
Chelsea, what's the scene that you would like to see for Sergeant Bradford?
Okay, so like, of course, we've gotten to see Tim as watch commander now. Like and see how he handled it when when they found out Gray had been like shot at and stuff and everything. But one that I would really love to see, I would like to see more of that, of him as watch commander, but I would really love for it to happen in an episode similar to Day of Death or Life and Death. Like a big storyline or something similar to those episodes, and see how he would kind of handle that. Like Gray could be on vacation or something and Tim is watch commander at the time, but I would love to see how he would handle that situation as a watch commander and not as a training officer or something.
Yeah, for sure. Martha, I gotta know, what is your Sergeant Bradford scene that you'd like to see?
Oh, well, firstly, I would have to agree with Emily and Chelsea for sure. I would like to see Tim have a larger role in episodes, basically what Emily and Chelsea said with season 5, and especially see him and Gray team up like in collaboration. Because I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's not really too many like Tim and Gray scenes,
No.
There's not that many, so it would be good to see that, especially see maybe like, and obviously Tim's going to be his own sergeant, we've discussed that already, but it would also be interesting to see like maybe like Tim, like again with like the doubt thing, maybe Tim tries to like start copying like things that Gray does, and people are like, Tim, why are you doing that? Like, what are you doing? Please. And like what Chelsea said, like it would be interesting, like obviously as we said at the beginning of the podcast, like one of the news articles was like, oh, we're bringing back familiar villains, and I'm like, it would be interesting if Rosalind comes back, and maybe this is probably like really way out of the park, but like maybe she kidnaps Jenny, his younger sister, or something to do with his family, like, and he has to have that decision with himself of like, okay, I am a sergeant now, like I'm not just a regular cop, like I have to follow the rules, or like having him like having to decide like should he tread that line, especially if it's a family member. So
yeah. That would be really interesting too, because if Rosalind would come back and kidnap Jenny, it's like, okay, so she kind of has it out for him then, because first, Caleb kidnapped Lucy, the love of his life, but then also like now Rosalind would come back and kidnap Jenny. It would be like, okay, so now Rosalind's kind of going after Tim. So yeah.
But yeah, that's mine.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. That sounds really interesting.
Carrie, what's yours?
I mean, I just agree with Emily. Like, it'd be nice to see like a softer side of Tim, especially if he like struggles a bit with like something that's like, a vulnerable moment, or like he has to, pull it together to like give a talk to like, his fellow officers. And it'd just be nice to have like Lucy still like by his side to offer encouragement or support.
Yeah.
And then I say the second one just because you guys know how much I love anything like just like a badass scene where it's just like Tim just like gets to enter a room in like some grand way, and it's just like, okay, boss here, like, or with like a great liner or something.
Would love to see that.
Because Eric delivers things so well, and I just think it'd be just so like just fun and entertaining.
So I'm gonna echo what everyone said about agreeing with Emily, because I definitely think that we've gotten a lot of good things from him this season. But I would like to see, so we saw how he was with Aaron. We kind of saw him like mentor John Nolan in a way. And I want to say that he rode with Jackson one time, but that might be a fuzzy memory. So I feel like seeing how he would interact with the new rookie would be really interesting. And I know that like we're supposed to get Tim and Lucy on the rookie feds, or at least that's what we're being made to assume. I don't know. It could be vice versa. And the rookie feds group is coming over to the rookie. But it would be really interesting to see the dynamics play out with like Tim and Simone, and then Tim and like the other feds team members, because I don't think that we have a lot of Tim and Simone in the crossover. And I feel like he wouldn't try and pull rank on them, but I think he would let them know of his spot and let them know of like his experience and like where he stands. So it would be interesting to see how he interacts with not only the new rookie, but also the rookie feds team. So yeah.
I'm excited to see like all of the I'm excited to see all of them interact, but that would be awesome.
Yeah. So that about wraps it up for our Sergeant Bradford rewatch episode. That was a lot to cover. We had like 6 episodes. So this could very well be our longest episode to date. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, if you guys want to follow us, you can find us on Twitter at the Shop Talk Pod _ or email us at shoptalktherookiepodcast@gmail.com with all of your thoughts. You can find us individually on Twitter as well. I'm at jstark804.
And I'm at Carrie Hyman.
And you can find the rookie rewatch at rewatch_rookie.
Hold on.
Emily, what is your Twitter handle?
As Emily8174.
And Chelsea?
At Stellarad_519.
And Martha?
Maddie Jackson 27.
And you guys are on Instagram now, right? Too?
Yes.
Okay. It's just rewatch_rookie, right?
Yeah, it's the same one.
Okay. Yeah, and then I know that you guys have some fun things coming up. So Emily, do you kind of want to give us the rundown on what the rookie rewatch team has planned?
Yeah. We have the holiday episodes rewatch this week, and then we're taking a break for most or all of August. Not real sure exactly when our dates are going to be, but we'll wrap up the summer finishing our like season 1, season 2 top 5. We have 2 more on our list that we're doing: Standoff and Fallout.
Yay!
And then...
Oh my gosh! Sorry, I've been waiting for Standoff to be one since like day 1.
I was waiting for like I don't know, like I was waiting for like the perfect, like I had paired all these other episodes within some other like themes, so finally like these were the ones that were left, and they just happened to like go together really well. So
I just love that episode.
I do too.
I could just watch it. I don't even care how many times. There's just always something. I just love it so much.
Yeah, I love it too. And then we're gonna wrap up with the UC theme rewatch, leading up to season 5, because we're gonna be starting season 5 in UC again. So I thought that would be pretty perfect. And then we have no planned rewatches during this season like we did last year. But we'll still post fun things on the accounts from time to time. I'm sure I'll be doing some more parallel videos, hopefully, and maybe some other creative stuff from our other members, both on Twitter and Instagram, probably. And of course, you'll see some of us tweeting on Sunday and Tuesday nights for the rookie and the rookie bed. So
yeah,
that'll
be fun. Yeah, I know. I can't wait until the fall. I'm just like, just give me my TV back. Like, I love binge watching old shows, but I'm like, just give me back my TV shows. So yeah.
Yes. I need all my shows back.
Yeah. But as for us, we'll be back next week rewatching and recapping 302. So until then, we'll let you guys listen to the Sergeant Bradford episode. So bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Go get him, boo.